Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by �celestial_spirit28 on Wattpad. Now let's start. The first time Bakugo ever felt fear was when he was 4. It was when his quirk manifested. He didn't know what was happening and his palms burned with each crackle he produced. It hurt. It was his mother that found him in his room and rushed to submerge his hands in a sink filled with cold water. He never told anyone how badly his hands hurt the day he got his quirk. 15 The next time Bakugo had felt fear, it was mixed with a bit of jealousy. Bakugo had a respect for heroes and an amount of awe for them that he would never admit. All Might was on T, and he watched the hero take down villains on a live news stream with 𝗧𝗑𝗪. Then 𝗧𝗑𝗪 called All Might the coolest and strongest human in the world. Of course that was to be expected, but for some reason Bakugo did not like it. 𝗧𝗑𝗪 was supposed to think he was the coolest person in the world, the person next to him, not the face on the screen. That's probably when it started. The anger, pushing 𝗧𝗑𝗪 Deku away. If he accepted help, then he was weak. All Might didn't need help, so neither did he. He was going to become the #1 hero and Deku would look up to him. 22 All Bakugo had was anger and fear when he was captured by the sludge villain. The heroes were standing around because they were too weak. He was captured because he was too weak. He had tried to fight the monster with his rage, but he was running out of oxygen and began running in fear. In what he thought was his final moments, his eyes met Deku's. Why was that extra here? Why was he running towards him? Fear raced through him. When Deku came closer, he would get hurt or even die alongside him. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. Bakugo was supposed to be the one saving Deku, not the other way around. He was truly scared, and not even for himself, but for the crybaby Deku that was trying to save him. Then All Might showed up and all he could feel was relieved that Deku was safe, and that made him angry. He shouldn't have to rely on other people to keep Deku safe. He would get stronger and do it himself. After that he went to the entrance exam at 𝐸11. The fourth time Bakugo had really felt fear was in 𝐒𝐻𝐁𝗵𝗵. Bakugo had been feeling conflicted. Deku didn't have a quirk. Was he hiding it and looking down on him all these years? He had known Deku since diapers. He was a good secret keeper when it came to others' secrets, but he was terrible at keeping his own. Bakugo had been assigned to the villain team and Deku to the hero. When they fought, he couldn't wrap his mind around the power Deku was resisting him with. That scared him and he let that fear turn into rage. Could Deku become powerful enough to become the #1 hero? Would he always be #2 in Deku's mind? He didn't want that. He wanted Deku to look up to him, to see him as the strongest, the best of the best. He would make it happen. He swore to himself he would make it happen. 6 It was different the next time he was scared. It was at the 𝗧𝗑𝗪. He and Kirishima had bonded, and he might have accidentally acknowledged his classmate's strength when he told Kirishima not to worry about them. They had taken out the thugs they had come across and made it to the center of the 𝗬𝗓, where Mr. Aizawa was fighting. Out of all the things he saw, he did not expect to see his teacher being carried away by Frog Girl and Pervert. He was concerned and angry that someone had hurt his teacher that bad. He was out for revenge when he pinned the warping villain. Bakugo was not lying when he said he would blast that 𝗕𝗏 so hard they would be piecing him together for weeks. That incident was the first time Bakugo had truly seen the power of All Might. That was a true pro. Could he do that? Could he be a better hero, or even get close to the level that All Might was at? He didn't know, but he would try his hardest. 8 The sixth time, it wasn't fear per se that Bakugo was feeling. It was an impending sense of doom. It was after the internships. Bakugo went to Best Jeanist and got groomed. Deku went with a nobody and got stronger. During their rescue training, Deku had learned to control his quirk and was able to use it without breaking himself. He felt it in his bones, a sense that Deku was going to become stronger than him. That Deku was going to become #1. Bakugo ignored it and pushed himself even harder. Then he had a test and got paired up with Deku. They were both against All Might. Bakugo refused Deku's help, but it became apparent that he could not beat All Might by himself. Don't you dare say you'd rather lose. It enraged him, But he worked together with Deku. At those words he just knew he had to. With those words, even though he was knocked out, he won. They won. 𝗵 being kidnapped was probably the worst thing that had ever happened to him. He was fine right up until he was pulled into the warp gate and Deku, beaten and broken Deku, came running for him. He could only manage the words, "Stay back," before he was pulled into the gate. When he came through the portal and saw only villains, he was relieved. Because that meant Deku didn't get through. The League wanted him, so he was sure they wouldn't kill him for the time being, but if Deku came through with him, God only knows what would happen. The relief was brief, but it allowed him a moment of clarity instead of panic. All Might showed up and he thought everything was going to be fine. All Might was going to take down all of the villains. But of course, that didn't happen. One moment he was next to All Might and the next he was choking on black liquid coming from his mouth, and he was next to a masked man along with the villains that were restrained only moments ago. Panic filled his senses, but he kept his mind clear and did his best on defense as villains lunged at him to try and get him under control again. When All Might showed up, the masked man greeted him like they had known each other for years, and Bakugo didn't feel safe. He knew that he was a liability but couldn't find a way out. He was so relieved when he heard Kirishima call out to him, and he took the ticket to escape. When they finally stopped in a crowd gathered in front of a public big screen, he watched the fight. He watched All Might barely win. He saw the skeletal figure that was now All Might. He saw the #1 hero point to the screen and deliver a single-sentence message. He saw Deku cry while everyone else cheered. He didn't understand why Deku was crying, but he also couldn't bring himself to cheer. How could he feel happy? It was his fault. He was the reason All Might had lost his power. Guilt built up in him until it finally exploded. After he had moved into the dorms at U. He couldn't take it anymore. He challenged Deku at ground beta. All of his feelings spilled out into that fight. All of Deku's feeling had been set straight and revealed to him. After he pinned Deku, All Might revealed himself. Turns out he had been listening the entire time. The truth came out, the truth behind Deku's quirk, and All Might had gotten rid of the guilt he had felt, not completely, but with the revelation that this was going to happen anyway, it reduced the guilt. After that incident and the punishment that followed, his relationship with Deku had gotten better. It wasn't like when they were kids, but it was the best it had been in years. Bakugo could actually hold a conversation without sparking up, and if he did, he never made a move to hurt or push Deku around like he used to. Everyone in Class 1A noticed it, but no one said anything about it for fear of running the dynamic that was being built. Even Aizawa saw their relationship improve, and while he did not think that it was a good idea, he was glad they had duked it out. Whatever they did or whatever All Might said had really helped them. For Bakugo, all of the fear and guilt and rage that he had built up melted away, and that reflected in how well he got along with his classmates. Everything was going good, so of course someone had come along to ruin it. All Bakugo knew was that he was hit by a quirk, and now he was at the childhood playground he used to play with Deku at. Everything had a gray tint to it, and the air around him was almost oppressive. Not at all like he knew his town was. Was it a reality-altering quirk? Or just one that bends reality? Did he time travel? Was he awake? His body hurt like he was. Kaken, the voice made him freeze. Only one person uses that name, but the voice that said it did not sound like the person who it belonged to. Bakugo was on guard and looked around. There was a figure facing away from him, just sitting on the swings, slightly rocking. Bakugo recognized the hair even though the colors felt darker. Wrong. Deku. What happened? Where is the rest of our class? Bakugo had a bad feeling and slowly made his way around the swings to see the face of Deku. What's wrong? I don't know what you mean by class. If you mean our old one, you already know what happened. After all, you shared the same fate as them. Deku's voice was oddly melancholy. It held a sharp deadliness that Deku did not possess. The swings squeaked as he rocked. What does Deku mean by he shared the same fate as his class? Deku, what's going on? Where is our class? He was in front of Deku now. The figure in front of him was looking down at his lap. He was wearing a long-sleeved white dress shirt that was rolled up to his elbows, paired with a black vest and black leather gloves. His pants were black dress pants, but he was wearing combat boots. You died, and so did everyone else. That made Bakugo tense. He clearly wasn't dead, but what about his classmates? I'm not dead, Deku. Bakugo tried to not let his impatience sleep into his voice. You always say that every time I see you. My mind just loves to play tricks on me, you know. Well, of course you do. You're just a figment of my imagination. Okay, so Deku thinks he's dead and hallucinates him. He could work with that. How did WE die? I killed you and them. You know this, stop making me say it again. His tone was impatient and cold. Why the F does Deku think he murdered their entire class? Nothing about his situation was good. Why did you kill them? He needed information, lots of it. And if Deku thinks this is just his mind, he'll be more inclined to answer if he continues to think so. Oh come on, you already know. He said with a laugh. When Bakugo stayed silent, he huffed. All right, fine. I guess I'll tell you again, he said with a shiver-inducing laugh. Well, I didn't become the #1 hero, you did. I became the villain, a demon good one too, that made Bakugo's eyes widen. He was the #1 her and Deku became a villain. What the hell was going on? No way, even if he did manage to become the #1 hero, there is no way Deku would become a villain. Why did you become a villain instead of the #2 hero? He had to know, is this had any chance of this being real, or even if this was real then it was bad. Why? Because you, of course. He said cheerily, he caused this. After middle school our relationship really didn't get better after entering you. And then you went and got stronger and I couldn't keep up. All the while you put me down and I really couldn't take the abuse anymore. I was in love with you, you know. Deku loves him. Somehow you found out about my feelings and brutally beat them as harshly as you could. I tried to kill myself after our last year at you. I went to our old middle school where you had told me to take a swan dive off of the roof and followed your instructions. No, he tried to kill himself. The League of Villains found me and took me in as one of their own. Eventually I became partners with Shigaraki, he mysteriously died and I became the head of the league. I guess should really thank you. Well, you guys found out I was alive and tried to rescue me. 𝗬𝗏 was the first to die, followed by 𝗕𝗓𝗏 and 𝗵𝗃. He laughed. Then one by one I killed out classmates. I killed Todoroki right before I killed you. He manages to kill half and half. Even Bakugo had to admit the BSTRD was strong. How did you kill him? No need to get angry, Kaken. This isn't the first time we've had this conversation after all. How many times had Deku hallucinated him to make him believe he was just a figment of his imagination? Well, I of course knew how Todoroki thinks. I know exactly what made him wrap around my finger. Once he got close enough I stabbed him in the heart. He didn't have enough time to react. I tried the same with you, but of course you were smarter than to fall for my tricks. You tried to convince me to come back to the side of light. You apologized for all you had done and had realized you loved me, but you were too late. I overpowered you, then I broke your arms, your legs, then as you watched me helplessly, I snapped your neck. Bakugo had to resist the urge to take a step back. This wasn't his Deku, but he still needed to figure out why he was with this fake. I did my fair share of convincing as well. I almost got you to join me and abandon the heroes almost. Deku sounded sad as he admitted his failure. Bakugo was glad that him didn't turn to the side of evil. But you didn't and I killed you instead. Your body is buried along with our classmates. You guys are behind the walls of you. He seemed to laugh. Those fools, you know that the heroes' last stronghold is that school. They have barricaded themselves inside and removed my identification so I can't get in. I can't wait to kill the rest of them. Deku, how old are you? That was an odd enough question that it gave Deku a pause. Did he just give himself away? He needed to know how many years it's been since you. I am 28 this year. Your birthday is in 2 months. Deku looked up and Bakugo had to physically stop himself from flinching. Deku's eyes were red, not like his own. Deku's green orbs were now a dark shade of BLD red. He could tell Deku was older. So it's been 12 years since their second year of you. That's odd, Deku commented. 𝗬𝗏, what is? You're in your hero suit from when we were in high school. I know you changed your gauntlets to be able to release a bigger blast while reducing the recoil you have to deal with before you graduated, but this is your first one from you. When you come to me you're generally covered in your own blood. You're also shorter. He has to reveal himself. If he tries to lie, Deku will know it. Deku, I'm not a part of your imagination. I'm alive. I don't know how I got here, but a few minutes ago we were at the gym and you. and we training to become heroes. A calculating look passed over Deku's face. Don't try to lie to me, Kakin, it won't work. Deku, I was hit by a quirk and I ended up here, I'm not lying. Deku stood up shocked. It put Bakugo on his guard. Take off your mask, what's that going to prove? Take it off, he said impatiently before he sighed. Look, if you're real, I won't hurt you for the next hour. Bakugo raised an eyebrow. Just an hour. I won't promise anything longer than that, it gives us just enough time to have a conversation. It took a moment before he finally relented. When Deku made a promise he meant it, even if this wasn't exactly his Deku. Fine, he reached up and removed his mask with his left hand, leaving his right free in case anything does happen. Deku approached slowly, as if he was unsure of his decision. It only took a few movements before they were standing face to face. Deku was taller than he was by a few inches, so he had to slightly look up. He did not dare to move as Deku reached his face and cupped it with his right hand. His hands were cold. How long have you been sitting outside? A few hours, he responded breathlessly. Hands wandered down to his chest, and the man leaned down to press his ear against it to listen to his heartbeat. He smells like cinnamon with hints of vanilla. You're cold, you should go inside and warm up before you catch something, Bakugo couldn't help but say softly. The older tensed against him. But you don't care about me. Yes I do, you don't, he said sharply but didn't make a move to leave his chest. Bakugo moved his hands slowly as to not startle the villain in his arms, and held him in a light hug. I don't know how I treated you in the past or future or whatever, but what's the last thing you remember that happened between us? Bakugo would normally be pissed he was being interrupted, but he couldn't be angry at the broken voice. Bakugo had to keep in mind that a murderer was in his arms. This wasn't his innocent Deku. It is our second year at youth. I remember us getting along. After what happened at Ground Beta I understood you better, and all of the feelings I had, all of the guilt I carried went away after we duked it out and talked. All Might explaining everything also helped. Deku seemed confused as his head tilted and was more snug against his chest. The last thing I remember that happened at Ground Beta was us training. Nothing happened at Ground Beta besides us fighting. We would be teamed up sometimes, but you hated it each time. SHT, the one thing that repaired their relationship didn't happen. Right after the dorms were built we went to Ground Beta and fought. We talked and then All Might came and explained how you got your quirk. It's been a few weeks since then, and I haven't been intentionally trying to break you down. I don't remember anything like that. What now? So you were in love with this world's me? Deku straightened, which made Bakugo tense. Did he hit a nerve by accident? He was ready to put some distance between them when he was wrapped up in a hug and pressed into the older male's chest. Our fight never happened to you. You don't know that I'm in love with you. He was being clutched tightly, but it didn't bother him. I didn't know until you told me. There's no way I would have reacted like you say I did, but it happened. You did. You completely rejected me and I His voice broke, which made Bakugo tighten his grip about the older male's waist. It was odd being the shorter one. I'm sorry. It wasn't me. Your Bakugo isn't butt, and I would blast his butt to America if I had the chance. That seemed to make the older tense. I killed you, Kakin. Deku tried to pull away, but Bakugo held him by the waist. I'm alive, Deku, and I'm not going to let you run away. I'm here. He could feel a head shake in his shoulder. No, I killed him. You did, but I'm here now, and I won't hurt you like he did, I promise. With an unexpected burst of strength, Deku ripped himself out of his grip and backed off just out of his reach. Tears were gathered in his eyes. Deku I'm sorry I can't. Deku turned around. Green electricity surrounded him as he ran. Wait, Deku. He found he couldn't move his foot when he tried to follow Deku. Something was sticking his boot to the ground. Bakugo blasted it and found his explosion was weaker than it usually was. It freed his boot, but it took more of a conscious effort to put power even into a small explosion like that. Was it because this wasn't his world? What now? Everything around them seemed to be abandoned, so it was unlikely he could just knock on someone's door and ask what the hell was going on. Bakugo looked around and caught a glimpse of a windowed building in the distance. Bakugo said quietly, though in the quiet it was deafeningly loud. Deku said the heroes were gathered there, right? He was the former #1 hero, so they should let him in, right? They would have no reason to revoke his access to the school since their Bakugo died, so he shouldn't have a problem getting in. Bakugo moves stealthily through the streets of his hometown. Since the hero's last base was you, then it was safe to assume that villains had run of the town, that is if there were any people left. When Bakugo heard movement he avoided it immediately. He was not going to risk it in a world where his quirk was weakened and everyone had years of experience on him. He was relieved when he made it to the street he was on with no problems. The doors should open up like they did when he was in school, right? Bakugo took a singular look around before he made a pass to cross the street. He would be vulnerable to attack for a few moments before he could get inside. It shocked Bakugo to see guns mounted on top of the walls surrounding you, as well as cameras around the door. If they were an automatic defense system then he wouldn't be registered as an enemy, and if it was manual then he should be recognized enough by someone, that is if he actually was the #1 hero before he died. If Deku could recognize him then he sure as hell hoped other heroes would. Seeing the perimeter was clear, he made a break for the entrance. The guns followed his movement but did not shoot. It was seconds before the doors opened and he ran in before they shut behind him. Movement came from his right and he let out an explosion before dodging. People surrounded him and it was a frenzy of chaos, explosions, and defensive maneuvers before a voice rang out over all of them. A voice he recognized immediately even though it sounded worn. Enough. Bakugo jumped away from the commotion and kept his back to the entrance in case he needed a quick escape. A bunch of different voices cut through as the smoke cleared. Bakugo stood ready to go on defense at any moment. Wait, is that Dash? No, it couldn't be Dash. Ground Zero died. Dash. Bakugo began to recognize the maybe 5 people that was surrounding him. Bakugo. And Mr. Aizawa. A man clad in black with white scarves piled around his shoulders walked in front of the rest. He was wearing an eye patch over his left eye. He still had the scar from the 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐲 attack. His hair was tied back into a long, low ponytail, his hair wrapped around his left shoulder going down to his waist. Bakugo, that really you? His teacher had walked close but was still out of arm's reach. Mr. Aizawa, what happened to you? It was his teachers, Present Mike, Midnight, Cementos, Mr. Aizawa, and what looked like best genius surrounded him. Stay back, Eraser. We don't know if that's really him, Midnight called out her, and everyone else was still ready to fight. It seemed Aizawa was the only one willing to see if it really was him here. Look, I'm not the Bakugo you all know. Dash. Everyone including his teacher tensed. Probably not the best way to start. I'm from a different world. I don't exactly know what's going on, but I am Bakugo, just not your Bakugo. Bakugo reaches his hand up and took off his mask. You're young. Mr. Aizawa's voice was gruffer than he remembered it, but it was still his teacher. I'm in my 2nd year of you. How did you get here? It seems the teachers left the talking to Aizawa because they were all listening in silence. Class 1A was training at the gym Cementos built. Somehow a villain got in and I was the one who got in close to take him down. I blasted him but I got hit with his quirk before you could erase it. I somehow ended up in this world. Bakugo didn't think it was wise to mention he had met Deku until he was asked about it. He saw Aizawa's eye light up and his hair slightly rise from his shoulder. Everyone waited until he blinked and nothing happened. He's not lying, Best Genius said after a moment. Yeah, the school wouldn't let him in if it was anybody else. Mike agreed. We should take him to Nizu while the small principal was still alive. Actually, it kinda makes sense with his smart mind. It only took a moment before he was trapped in Aizawa's arms. It was a bone-crushing hug that Bakugo took a second to return. Mr. Aizawa. His eyes widened when he felt hands trembling as they held him. Ssg Deku did say that he killed their entire class and Aizawa was their teacher. Seeing Bakugo alive must really be a shock to him. It's been a long time since you called me that. Bakugo knew what he needed to do. While calling you Eraserhead is too much of a headache for me, you're always going to be plain old Mr. Aizawa to me. That caused him to bark out a laugh. I'm sorry, I know you're not our Bakugo but Dash. Bakugo cut his teacher off gently. No matter what world I'm from, you're always going to be my teacher. Dash. His words relaxed Aizawa. Bakugo smirked as he continued even though it was hidden. So you better not apologize again or I'll blast you all the way to hell. You never change. Bakugo knew it was a compliment. Then you know I'll make good on my threat. 𝐬𝐽 pulled away, and ruffled his hair just like the 𝐬𝐽 from his world does. "I wouldn't expect anything less," his teacher said with a smile. "We got to go eraser." That sobered his teacher up. The moment officially over, he put his mask back on as the others began walking away. "Come on, Bakugo. It's still dangerous even though we're inside 𝐬𝐽's walls." He nodded and followed his teachers. "It's good to see you, Ground Zero," Best Jeanist said as he looked around. "Nice to see you too, but I swear if you come near my hair again I'll kill you." He got a smile from the pro hero. It looks like that was something he shared in common in this world. "I'll keep that in mind." It didn't take very long before they got into the building. The windows were shuttered from the inside like they would be in an emergency, and lights lit their path. They made their way to the top of 𝐸𝐽 by elevator. So what exactly happened here? Mike and Best Jeanist were in the lead while Midnight and 𝐬𝐽 were next to him. Midnight looked at him almost as if she was gauging how much to tell him. "Look, I'm not in my world and I have the right to know what's going on," he said, glaring back at her. "Very well, when we get to the principal's office he will tell you what you need to know." "Oh, don't start with that bull dash. Watch your mouth," 𝐬𝐽 cut in. "Hey, you don't have the right dash." He trailed off when he saw his teacher smile and pat his hair affectionately. He normally wouldn't stop, but the look he saw the other heroes give his teacher stopped him. Bakugo guessed his teacher didn't smile anymore in this world. "I'm still your teacher and you're still young," he groaned. "Stupid teachers." He grumbled but didn't miss how it brought a slight happiness to the pros surrounding him. When they came to the principal's office, Mike pushed the door open. Nizu was sitting on his desk. Maps were strewn across it. "Maps of the town, maybe." "Nizu, look who we found," Midnight said and flicked a finger towards him. "Ground Zero." Bakugo felt scrutinized as the bear rat mouse thing looked over him. My, it looks like we have a lot to discuss," he said, sitting back in his chair. "You're not our Bakugo Katsuki, are you?" "No, I got hit by some sort of quirk and landed here, within our gates." "No." Bakugo didn't want to indirectly reveal he had already met Deku. He put his paw on his chin in thought. "Will all of you leave me and Bakugo alone for a moment?" Bakugo saw 𝐬𝐽 step closer to him, not because he was a threat, but it seemed like it was because he didn't want to let go of something he had already lost once. "But Dash, no need to worry about me, at least let one of us stay," Mike said. "Eraser can stay, the rest of you may wait outside or do what you please." The heroes looked at his teacher before silently leaving the room. "Please, both of you sit," he gestured at the two chairs in front of his desk. "I'll stand," Bakugo said. If something happened he would like to be on his feet ready for action. "Nothing will happen to you here. 𝐸𝐽 is the safest place you could be and no one here will harm you." He forgot the demon animal was smart. "If something happens you're going to be the one I blame. So be it." Bakugo sat down next to 𝐬𝐽. "If you did not land inside the walls of 𝐸𝐽, where did you land?" "We have cameras though most of the city, but I didn't know about you until a few minuets ago. I landed near my home, in a park." If I remember correctly you live near." He seemed to trail off. "You met him, didn't you?" "That definitely wasn't good." 𝐬𝐽 quietly watched the conversation happening before him. "There's lots of people you could be referring to, you'll have to be more specific." "Test the waters. You met the villain Deku, or as you probably know him, Izuku Midoriya." He knew his teacher tensed. "I did." "How did you know?" "The goo on your boot. Only he uses that type of trap." Bakugo resisted the urge to check his boot. "The question is, why are you unharmed after an encounter with him?" "He hates you. He thought I was just a figment of his imagination. Apparently he hallucinates me often enough to where he didn't even look at me when he first heard my voice." "Feeling guilty?" Nizu asked. No idea. Bakugo did have an idea. It was revenge, but his actions still haunted him. "What exactly do you know about the state of this world?" Bakugo took a moment to think. What did he know? "I know that 𝐬𝐽 from this world became the #1 hero and Deku joined up with the League of Villains. He moved up ranking until he eventually became the head of the organization. All of my classmates are dead, and it was my fault." "Your fault?" 𝐬𝐽 said, clearly surprised. "Deku told me that he only became a villain because of this world's Bakugo. He saved this world's Bakugo for last out of class 1A to spite him." "Well, that's new information," Nizu said. "How exactly did this world's Bakugo turn him into a villain?" What was he supposed to do, lie? I guess he rejected Deku and took it too far. Apparently he had figured out Deku had a crush on him and brutally rejected him. All of this over a crush. Ding, Bakugo couldn't help but feel guilty. No, Bakugo has bullied Deku since they were kids, at least if that part is the same in this world as it is in mine. I didn't know it was that bad, Aizawa said. Me and Deku repaired our relationship in our world dash, or at least they are well on their way to it. But in this world it seems that the event that triggered us to repair it didn't happen in this world, and as time went by dash, it only got worse, Aizawa finished. It was quiet for a moment and Bakugo didn't like the face his teacher was making. I am sorry for his actions in this world. He should have never let it go this far. It is unacceptable. It's not your fault, it is our Bakugo's fault. This is not your burden to bear, Aizawa said and reached out to pat his hair. Then it's not yours either, Bakugo couldn't help but say. Bakugo dash. He cut his teacher off before he could say anything in protest. No, Mr. Aizawa, this is no fault of your own. You couldn't have suspected anything. When it comes to Dekumi and him are good at hiding the thing between us and people generally brush it off as me disliking him. Deku is also good at putting on a brave face. Between me and him there's no way you could have predicted this. His teacher smiled at him. You will be a great hero. Aizawa is praising him. That didn't happen often. I learned from the best. A moment passed between them before the principal cleared his throat. It seems you have a lot to talk about. I will leave the explaining to you, Eraserhead. Tell Bakugo whatever he wishes to know about this world. The quirk he was hit with does not seem to be one where he is sent to the future, so it should be safe to tell him. But I do have a question. When people ask if they can ask a question, it usually isn't good. You're going to ask anyway, so just say it. What was this event that triggered you to become friends once again? It happened about 3 weeks ago, so it was still fresh in his mind. Me and Deku had a battle at ground beta. As long as we've known each other, we have never really talked about our feelings. I was carrying a lot of guilt over All Might and our feelings came out as we fought. After I beat Deku, All Might had revealed himself. He heard the conversation and responded accordingly. He told me the truth behind Deku's quirk and everything that had happened. Of course you punished us when we got back to the dorms, but no doubt All Might told you what happened because you let us off with house arrest and the task of cleaning the dorms. They both seemed to think on his words. Why wasn't I contacted? As your homeroom teacher, it should have been me that was called to collect you instead of All Might. All Might told us he talked to you before he retrieved us. I guess you let him go in your place. He nodded. What exactly were you guilty for regarding All Might? Nizu asked. I was kidnapped by the League of Villains. Did that happen in this world too? Yes, and your battle with Deku happened after. Okay, so he was kidnapped? Yeah, but apparently it didn't happen in this world. Deku said so himself. I don't remember being called to ground beta for you two fighting, so I guess not, Aizawa said. Well, that is just about all I wanted to know. Feel free to roam about as you want, but remember that going outside is still dangerous even though you're inside the walls of you. Ask Eraserhead any questions you might have regarding this world. Bakugo nodded. Do you know if there's any way to return me to my world? No, but I will look into it. Thank you, Bakugo said standing. Aizawa stood as well. What do we tell everyone else? Aizawa asked. I will tell them the truth about how you ended up in this world, but I'll keep what I learned to myself. Despite knowing this, people who knew our Bakugo might seek you out, so don't be too surprised. I'll keep that in mind. Bakugo followed Aizawa out of the principal's office. It was a few minuets of silence when Bakugo took the lead and let his feet naturally go to his classroom 1A. When he realized where he had brought them, he hesitated for a moment before he opened the door and stepped in his old classroom. The layout and desks were the same, but everything was covered in a thick layer of dust. Bakugo trailed his hands over the desks until he had reached his and sat down. He felt under the desk and almost smiled when he felt a carving saying "Blasty" in blocky letters. I guess it's the same here. At the end of our first year, each of the students carved their names while you weren't in class. They used the nicknames I gave them. Kirishima carved mine out since I refused to carve Blasty as my name. Aizawa stood behind the podium. I know, during the summer the janitor came in here and thought it was gum, but he looked and saw all of your nicknames. He asked me if I wanted to replace them, but I told him to leave them. We never got in trouble for it. You guys were my favorite class. The best heroes I've ever had the chance to teach. After you guys graduated the newest hero course, students picked up on the carvings quickly. They almost didn't believe me when I told them all of you pro heroes carved their names into the desk like delinquents. They, of course, thought it was awesome that their desks had the essence of pro heroes left in them. I threatened them so that they would not follow your example. I'm definitely not going to forget you called us your favorite. He chuckled. Your hair is long. I stopped caring about cutting it after this world turned upside down. It was quiet for a few moments. Bakugo wiped the dust from his desk. How many years was it? Was what? When how many years after we graduated did Deku become a villain? He didn't look up at his teacher. 5 years was when we first saw him as a villain. How did no one stop him? He was All Might's successor and he was already smart to begin with, so he had brains as well as power. Class 1A was scattered around the world, but they all came back and rallied behind you and your hero agency to try and stop him. Uraraka, Azui, and Ida were the first to come across him. They tried to convince him that he didn't need to be the villain, that it wasn't too late. Aizawa didn't continue, and I'm guessing that everyone tried to do the same. He nodded, and they met the same fate. What happened next? Even though it was bad he became a villain, the city shouldn't be deserted like it was making my way here. Deku had used his 5 years wisely. He had risen in the ranks and took out Shigaraki. He became All for One's masterpiece. Deku took over the criminal underworld and built a criminal empire. The rest of the world is fine, but Deku is smart and took all of the major footholds in Japan. He isolated us from the rest of the world. Any outsider that tried to come in and help was immediately crushed. Deku warned that if any help was sent they would be crushed, but if they left Japan alone he would not spread his connections anywhere else in the world. He let the civilians leave as they wished, but any heroes that tried to leave were killed. An agreement was made with Japan. They couldn't afford to let his plague spread anywhere else, and Deku grew stronger. I tried to stop him too, but I lost my eye and my attempt failed. Aizawa reaches his hand up to his eye patch. That was a lot of information to digest. Now he knew Deku was smart enough to take over an entire county in 10 years from underground. That was scary and impressive. But all of them were really dead. His friends were really dead. How many of you are left? I think it's down to 30 of us. No one survived encounters with him, and with his guidance the villains began to overpower us. No longer low-level things, but trained criminals. Deku said that me and the rest of Class 1A was within the school walls. Are they buried here? He looked up to see his teacher nod. Where? The dorms. The rest of the class wanted their fallen comrade close. Behind the dorms is a graveyard. Everyone moved back into the dorms. Yeah, when they came back it was summer, so no one occupied the space. They weren't problem children like your class, so they were allowed to go home for the summer. Everyone settled into their old dorm room. Even you moved back here. Bakugo nodded and looked at the window to find it shuttered. He had lost himself for a moment and tried to look out the window like he would during class. Can I see them? It took a moment for him to respond. He swallowed thickly. Yeah, I'll take you, Mr. Aizawa. It really wasn't your fault, that's what everyone tells me, but you can't bring yourself to believe it, Bakugo said, knowing just how it felt. He stood up and dusted himself off. I forgive you, Bakugo said as he walked out the door. He couldn't do much, but forgiveness was something he could give. He heard silent tears fall onto the dusty podium. Let's go, I need to see. I have to see them. He knew. Aizawa nodded, so Bakugo led the way and didn't look back at the man he knew was following him. When they were outside he went on alert, remembering the principal's words. It only took about 5 minuets to reach the dorms. He went around the back and stopped as he saw the graves that were well kept. He glanced at each of the names. They were arranged like bowling pins in a bowling alley. He guessed the one in the front were the first to fall. He stopped at the very first headstone. Izuku Midoriya, friend to all, the one who had the heart of a true hero. The first to fall, but never forgotten. 19, they made a headstone for him. After the first of you fell, they knew the boy they had went to high school with died. As he looked around he realized that all of the headstones has a personal item laying on them. Deku had his mask, Ida had the boots from his hero suit, Tsu had her goggles, Uraraka had her helmet. It kept going. He saw Aoyama's belt, Kirishima's belt, the radio Denki wore, headphones that belonged to Jiro, the list went on. He saw his gauntlets at the very last headstone. Deku was right, they were different. Right next to his headstone was Momo's utility belt she kept her creations in. It took him a double take and a moment to figure out why he was confused. Wait, Deku told me that he killed 𝐬𝐳𝐵. He had to stop himself from using the nickname, Todoroki, right before he killed me. If this is in the order of the fallen, then where is his grave? Bakugo looked around wildly and still didn't find his headstone. Bakugo, a hand was laid on his shoulder. What you're thinking is right, but you can see him later. The principal is informing everyone of your situation right now, and I have no doubt once Todoroki hears he will come and find you, but you must let him come to you. Why? He turned around and looked at his teacher. You will find out soon enough. It is not my place to tell you. Fine, he said and tuned back to the gravestones. He found another one that caught his eye, Tashinori Yagi. He read the description and his eyes turned dark. 1. All Might, the symbol of peace, and number 1 hero, beloved by all. Loving friend, loving teacher, and loving husband. 3. Did Deku do that? No, he did try though. We thought maybe his emissary could snap him out of his evil ways. I was defending him when I lost my eye. Who did he marry? As far as I know, All Might doesn't have a lover. It took long enough for Bakugo to turn around when he didn't hear a reply. His teacher was fiddling with a golden band on a chain around his neck. You're his husband? Yes. When did it happen? We started dating your last year of school. Got married halfway through the year during spring break. How was the wedding? Great. You all crashed the party. Uraraka, Azui, Hakigure, Yaoyorozu, and Mina were in the dressing room with me. They all insisted they had to help get me ready. They shoved my hairdresser and tailor out of the room and shooed them away. Jiro and Kaminari took over the DJ booth. Surprisingly enough, they played pretty good music. Aoyama was the photographer. He was better than the one we hired, of course. Ida came early and helped set the wedding up. He found Siro, Kirishima, as well as Todoroki and forced them to help with the decorations. Best ice sculpture I've ever seen. Bakugo couldn't help but laugh. I see he never grew out of the class president position. What was the sculpture of? It was the words, Plus Ultra, with a small All Might on the top with me in my hero suit sitting on his shoulder. And that would be fun to see. Sato made a very large 4-tier cake and you actually made most of the food for my wedding. I didn't find that out until after the event was over, but it turned out you found the caterers and bossed them around all day. They themselves said you were one of the best chefs they had ever seen. Of course I am. Anyone that says my cooking is bad is a liar or just can't process something tasting so good. That caused Aizawa to laugh. Shoji and Tokoyami greeted the guests and made sure everyone was where they were supposed to be. Midoriya and Hitoshi were with Tashinori the whole time, so I didn't see much of them until I walked the aisle. Koda had used his quirk to have doves place flower crowns on our head and drop confetti over us after we kissed, made for a great picture. Bakugo did not dwell on the fact that Deku was at the wedding. It was a happy day for all of them. I bet, but what's Shinso doing at your wedding? Oh, I guess you're only in your second year at U. But during your third year Mineta dropped out and Shinso joined the hero course. Really? He said surprised. Yeah, I adopted him in that year. His parents were out of the question. He was emancipated, but I took him in as my own. Bakugo nodded. After we got married, I can remember Tashinori's face the first time Hitoshi called him Papa. Dada was so excited. Aizawa's face slowly slid into a frown. 10 years after you graduated, he died saving a civilian from a villain. He couldn't be All Might anymore, but he is still very strong despite his looks. He was injured, but they couldn't save him. I'm sorry, don't be. He died doing what he loved, saving people. Bakugo put a hand on his teacher's shoulder and got a great full look in return. Bakugo felt a cold breeze and realized it was cold outside. How about we go inside? It's a little chilly out here. He got a nod. There was a back door, but they both went around to the front. Bakugo entered first and flipped the lights on. The layout was the same as he remembers it. It was even clean. He walked inside and let Aizawa close the door. The windows were shuttered too. All of the rooms are unlocked, so you don't need your key card to clean the place. Couldn't bear to let it get dirty. Bakugo looked over the walls and found pictures hanging from every inch. Some were ones he himself had at the dorms in their world, and others were unfamiliar to him. He saw pictures of the wedding that was just being discussed and group photos. Memories he hasn't experienced yet. Everyone was smiling in the pictures. In some of them he was scowling, but he could tell when he was pretending to be angry, actually angry, or wanted to murder someone angry. "Do you mind staying here while I look around? I won't disturb anyone's things, but I'd like to look. Would you like some coffee or tea?" "Coffee would be good." He only got a nod. "Feel free to take anything from your room, it's pretty much yours anyway." "Thank you," Bakugo said and went to the 5th floor. Maybe that held some answers. He couldn't start on the 2nd floor. That's where Deku's room is, and he's not ready. Bakugo made his way and saw that their doors were customized. Azui had frog things pasted to her door, Siro had Siro things, Sato had recipes taped onto his, and Todoroki had pictures of him with the class. Footnotes were scribbled on the door. Special moments, he assumed. Out of all the pictures he saw, one caught his attention. Him and Todoroki were kissing, the class was in the background, Mina and Kirishima seemed to be whistling, everyone else seemed to be either laughing, making dumb faces, or just plain photobombing the picture. Bakugo opened the door to see it was still a traditional Japanese-style room. More pictures of him and the class popped up on the walls of the room. Some of them were signed with dates or side notes holding inside jokes that hadn't happened yet. So he and Todoroki were dating. Well, that explains Aizawa's reaction. 𝗬𝗧𝗏, that means he's going to have to face his otherworldly boyfriend later. Nope. A problem for future Bakugo. He shook his head and walked out of the room. He closed the door gently and went back into the elevator. He went to the 3rd floor. His room was on the 4th floor and he wasn't quite ready. The doors were also personalized and figured it was a theme since they had been here for so long. No way Aizawa would let them do it otherwise. He went straight to Denki's room and ignored the rest. He wasn't going to go into the rooms of people he wasn't somewhat close with. Kaminari's door had lightning bolts, batteries, a few pictures, and some song lyrics written on the door. The pictures seemed to have the result or to be in the middle of pranks he pulled on the class. His room was decorated the same as it was in his world. It held less pictures than Todoroki's and they were goofier. Todoroki's were more heartfelt pictures with special moments. A few of the pictures were of him and Shinso together. He assumed they shacked up. Denki is a flirt, but he doesn't mean any of it. He's glad Shinso gave him a chance, and they look pretty happy together. He left the room and went to Ida's. They weren't close, but if he could find answers anywhere, it would be in the class president's room. Everything was as organized as he remembered it. Complete volumes of books neatly on the shelves, but a few were odd. 6 of them were bulkier and were more stuck out than the rest, and that was saying a lot since the shelves were full of dictionaries and study books. Bakugo pulled the first book in the line out. It was white like the rest were, but the cover had a date on it. It was dated as their first year in U. The cover had a laminated picture of their class photo. Photo albums, huh? He couldn't help but say aloud as he opened the cover. The first ones were of Ida, Deku, and Uraraka. As he flipped the pages, more of his classmates were included in the pictures. The ones he was in, he could remember them being taken. Some of them he had no clue in hell how they were taken. Some pictures were of them training, outside pictures of fights he didn't know that were taken, hangouts outside of class, study groups, dumb pranks, shared meals, classroom activities. All of it was labeled with a date and a brief description of what was happening. All of it from their first year in U. He put that book back and pulled out the second one. The photo was one that Mina had forced the class and Aizawa into. He had a copy in his world too. She had forced them all to take it the same day as the class photo because everyone was dressed as well as they were going to be for the year. Their actual class photo was on the first page after the cover. More memories played through his mind, and a little before he hit that halfway mark, the pictures became unfamiliar to him. He read the descriptions and found he couldn't wait until the events depicted in the pictures came to be. All Might and Mr. Aizawa became more frequent in the pictures as well. He devoured the third book. Shinso became part of the pictures soon enough. There was a picture he stopped on. It was him and Shinso in what seemed like a stare down across the room. It was captioned as the first time Bakugo had called Shinso 𝐈𝐵𝐺. It was apparently monumental because once he remembered you enough to give you a nickname, you were officially with the class. It meant Bakugo had accepted him as a teammate. Did he really do that? Now what he thought about it, he stuck to calling them extras and gave them nicknames when he cared enough about them to remember their real names. He saw more of Shinso as the year went by. Apparently Aizawa and All Might danced around each other. It took a plan from Mina and 𝐻𝐻𝑒𝐫, who everyone knew as the relationship goddesses, to get them together. When those two saw a reciprocated crush in need of a little help, they were on it, and the relationships they helped generally worked out. Even Bakugo knew not to mess with their ships. Apparently their quest was left on pause as summer came around, which, if he didn't know how it ended, left him on a total cliffhanger as the album ended. The fourth one he saw the cover page was of all of them in their hero suits. They all seemed happy and smiling that day. He saw depictions of Mina and 𝗻𝗁𝗲's plans to get them together had really started. Shinso seemed like he really was a part of the group. He seemed to be closer with Denki than in the last album. Wedding pictures took up a huge section of the book, then cramming season hit and there was plenty of pictures with them studying with weird hairstyles, comfortable clothing, and lots of uncomfortable positions everyone fell asleep in. The occasional prank was also seen. It seemed Bakugo had really took up the chef position during finals. Pictures of him cooking or yelling at someone in the kitchen were more frequent. Pictures of graduation took up the end of the book. The principal was handing them diplomas while Aizawa stood next to him and shook each of their hands. Each page had a picture dedicated to each student in their class, with words that seemed to be their thanks directed towards Aizawa and the principal. They were in different handwritings, so he assumed Iida's albums were revealed and everyone filled in their talk. Ida was valedictorian and his speech was printed and glued onto the last page of their pictures. Then it seemed they had each taken individual pictures with All Might, which was collaged over the pages, then group photos with different assortments of his classmates. On the second to last page was all of them with their hero suits on in a class photo. They were definitely different from the start of you. They were older and their suits were changed just a bit. On the back of the last page was a printed speech that was signed separately by Mr. Aizawa. Ida probably had him sign it. It was saying how proud he was of this class and how it was the best class he had ever taught, how he had no doubt they were all going to be the best heroes the world had ever seen. Everyone listening to the speech knew it was high praise. Apparently it was the first time Aizawa had chosen to give a speech on his class. It made Bakugo repeat the mantra of, "I am not going to cry over this speech," over and over in his head. On the inside of the back covered different signatures along with hero names that were scrawled all over it. Its footnote was Class of 1A, plus Ultra, we made it. He smiled as he traced over the names, his in particular. He saw Deku's signature and ignored the pang in his heart, focusing on the good. Bakugo took the graduation photo of everyone in their hero suits and slipped it in a hidden and well-protected compartment in his left gauntlet. It wasn't his, but he could not take it. He put it away and pulled out the fifth book. It had a time frame the book contained on the cover and what seemed like a class reunion picture. The date read it spammed over the course of the next 4 years. Inside were individual pictures of people. It was in different writing styles, so he figured it was the person in the picture's words instead of Ida's. The dates jumped frequently and in undefined amount of time chunks, but everyone seemed to be in there a few times. Even he seemed to send his own pictures from time to time. Sometimes he saw planned hangouts and incidental meeting. Others he saw pictures of them in what seemed to be their hero companies. A few of them went overseas. It seemed like Bakugo stayed in Japan though. He saw pictures of the funeral held for Deku. No one sent in pictures for about a year after that. It was Aizawa and Toshinori's picture that had showed up first again. Then everyone else slowly filled the time gaps. A class reunion happened and group photos became more common. He was absent for a while, but he had began showing up in group photos before he began sending pictures in on his own again. Articles about heroes his classmates had become were in the notebook too. He saw a newspaper clipping that announced he was the #1 hero. It seemed he got drunk with his classmates that had stayed in Japan. Ida really kept on top of it. When he got to the end of the book, it had a picture of a group photo with all of his classmates. Deku's face was biggest in the picture, but off to the side. He had taken the picture in selfie mode, it seemed. It had a footnote at the bottom that paid tribute to him. He put it away and pulled out the last one. Everyone was in the common area of the dorm. They all had sleepwear on and seemed worn down but still putting on an effort to be happy. Inside the cover it has everyone's signature on it. They were centered around a single sentence. Journey to get Deku back. He noticed the book turned more into a journal. Whenever a picture was taken it had a paragraph or two to go with it. He read how their hope was draining and crime was rising. Few of the pictures were happy ones. Newspaper clippings frequented the pages of the album. They mainly followed the rise in criminal behavior and Deku. Finding the articles about the death of 3 pro heroes was like a punch to the gut. He read how things were becoming harder and how heroes were dying left and right. He read how they were glad the citizens were allowed to leave the island, but they were still caught in the crossfire sometimes. Some logs were from his classmates. He could see the tear stains on some of them. More articles about the death of the greatest heroes of all time popped up. Pictures became more and more sparse. When they did pop up, less and less of his classmates were seen. He could tell when Ida died. His own news clipping was in the album and its organization seemed to become messy. It seemed the album was passed between his classmates. When the holder died it was passed on. He kept going until it mostly became Momo. Her sections were organized. When he flipped a page and it was Todoroki's writing, the dread he had been feeling really carved a pit in his stomach. Todoroki wrote that it was down to 2 of the remaining students of Class 1A. He wrote that he loved Deku and regretted not telling him. It was originally how Bakugo and Todoroki got together and bonded. He wrote how he felt so empty now that his friends were gone. Eventually Bakugo reached a page where it was his handwriting and his log. He spilled the truth of how this mess was all his fault and everyone died because of him. He felt the burden and failure of protecting his classmates, his friends. He wrote how it was just him and Todoroki now, and then he wrote that it was just him. When Bakugo read the page of how they had failed their mission written on the cover page, he had expected it to be the end. He expected to find a blank page. He did not find a blank page. He found an empty picture of the common area and kitchen. It was a mess like it would usually be before someone got tired of the mess and forced them to clean up. It was dark and gloomy. The pictures on the wall he recognized as the ones he saw from when he walked in, but it was devoid of people. They were all gone. Next to it was the picture of the graves. Todoroki's handwriting filled the page once again. He wrote how he was the last of Class 1A. Mr. Aizawa was there, but he was the last student. He wrote how Deku stabbed him in the heart, but he did not stick around to see if he was truly dead, and it gave him the chance to freeze the hole and make his way back to you. He wrote that this would be the last entry and how he would be the last person to see the album. He wrote that if anyone did find the album then he hoped that it would mean Deku was defeated and peace reigned through Japan. Bakugo didn't realize it until a tear fell over Todoroki's signature to show that it was his log. He touched his face to find it was soaked. A sob wrenched itself from his throat as he closed the album and set it in the bed next to him. His body slid off the bed and onto the floor. He tucked his knees into his chest and his head into his knees. His arms wound as tightly as they could with his gauntlets around his legs and cried into himself. He didn't know how long he cried, but it was long enough to where he felt stiff when he pulled his arms away from around his legs to wipe his face. He stood on wobbly legs and put the photo album back. He stumbled out of Ida's room and back into the elevator. He made his way to the 4th floor. He could only partially see as he made his way to his room. When he got to the room, Bakugo forced himself to breath and look at the door. It has pictures as well as F-off signs tacked to it. Explosion marks that were definitely intentional were also on his door. It seemed someone had crossed out Bakugo and written Blasty in permanent marker above his name tag. It didn't look recent. He could only think that Kirishima was dumb enough to do it. He opened his door cautiously and found everything was in place. His decoration hadn't changed much and everything seemed to be put away neatly. He looked in his closet to see his clothes were definitely a little bigger than he was. He looked around to see that even his phone was on his charger. He tried it to see the screen black. He powered it on and smiled when it opened to the lock screen, which was a picture of his entire class hanging out at the mall during their 3rd year. Even Deku was in the picture smiling happily. He clicked the home button, glad it still read his fingerprint, and saw his home screen was a picture of him and Deku when they were kids. He also saw he had 638 missed calls. He checked the log and scrolled for a long time. All of them were from Todoroki. The first few were the only ones that had voicemails attached. Bakugo sat on his bed and pressed play on the first one. It seemed like Todoroki was trying to find him and was getting worried. The next few were the same, then the messages changed. Todoroki was sobbing and apparently just calling to hear his voice. A few more messages were like that before they were just missed calls. Bakugo went to his text messages and looked through all of them, all of the group chats that grew sparse, all of the private text messages, then he went through his camera roll. The newest pictures were of him and Todoroki, the other they got the more they included Momo and the rest of his classmates. It seemed Bakugo liked to take pictures of the meals he made spread out on the table while everyone was smiling for the camera. He found a few of him and Deku as children, a few of him kissing Todoroki, a few of catching Denki passed out on Shinso in the common area, some of All Might and Aizawa. He even found pictures of Deku that seemed to be taken at random moments. There were so many different pictures. Bakugo looked at them all. When he was finished, he felt like crying again. He stopped himself and shut off his phone before setting it back down. He grabbed his gym bag and pulled a few black shirts, pants as well as sweats, and a few hoodies into it. He didn't know how long he was going to be here, but he didn't want to spend the entire time in his suit. Bakugo went down to the second floor and braced himself. He went and saw that Deku's door was bare. He set his bag down outside of the doorway and stepped inside. Nothing was there. Of course there wasn't. Deku didn't come back to the dorms. He was the reason everyone gathered here, but he was the villain. Bakugo sat on the bed and put his elbows on his knees and his face in his hands. He wanted to scream. He didn't. All of this, everyone is dead because of you, Bakugo. Deku is a villain because of you. He whispered out. He only had a moment to point his gauntlet and have his finger ready to pull the trigger as the door was slammed open. His vision was blurry, but he knew that half and half hairstyle anywhere. Bakugo, I was wondering when you'd show up, 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Bakugo had barely lowered his gauntlet when he was crushed in a hug. The other male was panting heavily, like he had ran the entire way here. Bakugo realized there was a major height difference between them. Todoroki had at least a whole foot on him. In his lost haze, his mask was pulled off by slim fingers and he was pulled into a kiss. It was good, the kiss, not the situation. When Todoroki had pulled away, he was locked in a hug again. It took a moment before he knew the other man was sobbing against him. You're dead. You're dead. I didn't believe Nizu when he told us about you. I can't believe I was all alone. Todoroki's voice broke and he pulled Bakugo tighter against him. It was a little awkward because of the height difference, but Bakugo had wrapped his arms back around the man and made soothing circles in the small of his backs. I'm here, 𝗬𝗏𝗏, he said softly. The man nosed his shoulder as if his scent was a fresh breath of oxygen after almost drowning. When he started bearing the weight of the taller man, he directed them towards the bed and collapsed, laying down with Todoroki on top of him. The man immediately curled around him. He wrapped his arms around the man as his chest began to soak with tears. Bakugo figured they would be here for a while, so he went to take off his gauntlets off, but as soon as he shifted away, the grip around him got tighter and a small voice pleaded with him. Please, don't go again. Bakugo strokes Todoroki's hair and spoke softly. I'm not going anywhere. I was just going to take off my gauntlets. They're heavy and I don't want to rest them on you. Can I do that? It took a moment for Todoroki to respond. When he did, he only got a small nod. Bakugo put his gauntlets down gently onto the floor and made a mental note to be careful when getting up. His right arm wrapped around Todoroki's back while his left hand ran through the mismatched hair. It's all right now. I'm not going anywhere. Bakugo didn't know how long they stayed like that, but it was long enough to where Todoroki fell asleep on him. He really shouldn't sleep in here. Bakugo slowly untangled himself from the long limbs that were around him and watched his gauntlets as he got up from the bed. He could probably carry Todoroki to his room. Maybe Bakugo should take them to his room instead. He shook his head. What he needed was to see Aizawa first. Bakugo left his gauntlets on the desk, so if Todoroki's were to wake up, he would be assured that Bakugo was coming back. He left the door open just a bit and picked up his bag. He went to the common floor and found Aizawa with a black mug that had white paw prints all over it. His teacher was sitting comfortably on the couch. Bakugo! Bakugo surprised Aizawa when he pulled the mug from his hands and left it on the table before pulling his teacher into a hug. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what you've been through, Mr. Aizawa. He knew his body was trembling, but he didn't let go. Tears slipped down his face once again. He felt Aizawa pat him and began combing through his hair. What did you find? He was obviously referring to what reduced him to this mess. Albums. Ida's albums, his teacher nodded. You've been gone for 3 hours, I made coffee about 30 minutes ago. Would you like some? Bakugo stiffly nodded and let his teacher direct him to the couch. He watched as his teacher put together a mug of coffee for him and silently handed over. He sat next to Bakugo and took his own cup back into his hands. Me and Todoroki were dating, Bakugo said once he was calm. Did he tell you that? No, figured it out from the albums. Todoroki found me a while ago and knocked out crying. I'll take him to his room once I'm done with my coffee. You should take him to your room, he used to go in there after you died, wore your sweaters too. He took your death, as well as being the last one, really hard. It took him a while to get back to himself. I never would have expected I got together with him. Our relationship isn't bad back in my world, we're friends, but we aren't buddy-buddy quite yet. As much as you fought with him, you knew his power and had respect for him. After a moment Bakugo spoke quietly. How close was he to dying? Very. He froze his skin to stop the bleeding and the blade touched his heart. He had to sneak back here because villains ran rampant throughout the town during that time instead of it just being abandoned like it is now. Mr. Aizawa. Yes, Bakugo. Who's your favorite in Class 1A? Nope, not telling you. I'll find out someday. I'm sure you will. Bakugo didn't realize he had been drinking his coffee, let alone finish it. He was surprised when he tried to take a drink but found nothing but the bottom of his cup. Mr. Aizawa. Yes, Bakugo, I'll fix this. With Deku I mean I'll do whatever it takes to end his reign. Bakugo no. Aizawa looked at him sharply. You will stay away from him. Just because he didn't hurt you the first time Bakugo cut him off. Means that there is still a chance for me. He glared Aizawa into silence. Deku is smart, and he knows that I'm not the Bakugo that hurt him. He might seek me out and try to reconcile with me like he couldn't with your Bakugo. A few tense moments passed when Aizawa's anger crumbled and fear controlled his voice. Two can't have you die again. I won't die, who do you think I am? He said jokingly. His teacher looked at him, as if evaluating if he really meant what he said. I'll stand behind you if you must make that choice. Thank you, Mr. Aizawa. Now go get Todoroki and take him to your room. I'm leaving, I'll be back in the morning with supplies for breakfast. You better not touch them. I will be doing the cooking, thank you very much. It will be good to taste your food again. Bakugo stood up. See you in the morning. Good night, Bakugo. Bakugo took his bag and went to his room. He left his stuff and pulled back his blankets so he could easily maneuver Todoroki. He left his door open and went back to Deku's old room. Bakugo was glad when he found Todoroki sound asleep. He pitched an arm around the back of taller male's knees and cradled an arm around his back. He made a note that he would need to come back and get his gauntlets. He quickly carried Todoroki to the elevator and into his room. Bakugo set him on his bed and looked towards the closet. He pulled out a black tank top and gray sweatpants. Both of them were a little baggy, but it would be fine for the moment. Bakugo folded his hero suit and set it on a desk. He went to get his gauntlets just to be safe. If something happened in this weird world, then he would rather have them close by. When he was back in the room, he looked at Todoroki's sleeping form. He was pretty lithe when he was older. Did he not work out anymore? He probably didn't take care of himself. Bakugo shrugged and slid into bed behind Todoroki. He wrapped his arms around the sleeping man as the body instinctively turned and grabbed onto his chest. Sleep, I'm not going anywhere. In the morning Bakugo woke up to an alarm. It took him a moment to realize that it was his phone. He shut it off before it could wake Todoroki, who seemed to be in a deep sleep still. His phone said 8 o'clock. Bakugo guessed his phone hadn't been tuned on since this world's Bakugo died, so no one had a reason to turn off the alarm. He was probably the first in a long time. In any case, he was grateful for the alarm. Aizawa said he was coming in the morning. Did he have time for a shower? Aizawa better not start cooking while he showered. Bakugo grabbed a black shirt that said, "Die," in white characters and another pair of sweatpants. He showered and wondered when he decided to change his soap to something more earthy. It smelt good though, and it seemed to be healthier than his, probably why he switched. Bakugo made quick work and dressed before exiting the bathroom. It seemed he only took a 15-minute shower. Bakugo discarded the clothes and towel into the laundry basket and saw Todoroki snoozing away. Bakugo figured he should let the man sleep. When he made his way to the common room, he saw Aizawa's capture weapon on the couch and heard noise from the kitchen. He looked to be unloading groceries. "Morning," he said, causing Aizawa to jump and get into a defensive stance. When he realized it was Bakugo, he went back to his task. "Morning, Bakugo." "Hey, get out of the kitchen, you're going to be in my way." Aizawa smiled. "Fine, I'll wait on the couch." Aizawa grabbed his coffee cup, causing Bakugo to notice a pot was on. Bakugo shook his head and focused. Food that Todoroki and Aizawa liked that he could make with these supplies. Bakugo settled into soba instead of miso soup because it's Todoroki's favorite, at least in his world, steamed rice, salted fish because Aizawa likes salty foods, and tamagoyaki. Normally Bakugo would make more, but his options were limited and that was what he had. It took about an hour before everything was finished. As he was moving the food to the table, Aizawa set up 3 places around the table. It was then he heard running along with hard breathing. "You shouldn't be running, Todoroki," Aizawa chided as he sat down at the head of the table. Panicked eyes looked over him. "Two thought you were gone. Maybe Bakugo should have left a note or something." "No, I simply made breakfast." Todoroki slowed his breathing and sat at the table. Bakugo sat across from him. "Thank you for the food," Todoroki and Aizawa said in unison. "You made soba," Todoroki said, looking at his bowl. "Todoroki from my world loves cold soba. I made this instead of miso soup, the salted grilled fish." Aizawa questioned. "Figured out you liked salty food, so I figured I could make salted grilled fish instead of boring regular grilled fish." They both looked like they wanted to say something. "Now both of you shut up and eat before your food goes cold." They both nodded but didn't say another word. Bakugo ate and let the silence surround them. It looked like Todoroki and Aizawa were close to tears as they ate their respective dishes. They must have missed having a meal like this, a meal made with them in mind. When they were finished, Aizawa offered to do the dishes, leaving Todoroki and Bakugo free to lounge about. They sat next to each other on the couch. "I'm sorry about yesterday, I just got overwhelmed seeing you again. I know you're not our Bakugo, but I couldn't help myself." "Don't worry about it, I might be Bakugo from high school, but I'm still Bakugo. You look exactly like him. When I woke up this morning and you weren't next to me, I freaked out. I came down here and saw you in his clothes. I could almost fool myself that you were him. Sorry, I would have left a note or something, but I thought my hero suit and gauntlets would be enough to assure you I wasn't leaving." "No, it should have been, but I was too panicked to think anything through." "Don't worry about it," Bakugo said softly. "You were crying when I found you, was not?" Bakugo protested, though they both knew it was a lie. He sighed. "I found the photo albums in Ida's room, went through all them. I saw their graves, but the last album really sunk it in. They were truly gone. After I had that breakdown, I went to Deku's room and for some reason I thought his stuff would be there, but it obviously wasn't. I knew there wouldn't be anything, but I had to see it. Everyone thought about it." "Thought about what?" "Decorating his room like he had it in high school, for when he came back to us. We were all so sure we could bring him back to the hero's side. When we heard Midoriya had become a villain, we couldn't believe it, but slowly we all came to you, since your hero agency is located here. You were the #1 hero and you were Bakugo, so of course we rallied behind you. His whole class really had that much faith in him. Aizawa joined up with us too. All Might came as well, but we mostly kept him away from the front lines. We were invited to stay here by Nizu and all of us moved in. When the fighting got bad, we designated our hero agencies to someone in case something happened to us. We dedicated ourselves to Midoriya, but one by one we began to fall." Bakugo reached a hand out and held Todoroki's. "Me and you got together during this mess. We bonded over our love for him and learned to love each other. Midoriya knew we were after him. Azui, Ida, and Uraraka were the first to encounter him. He didn't hold back." "That's enough," Bakugo said. "I don't need to hear any more." He pulled Todoroki into a hug. After Todoroki calmed down, he spoke. "Since when did you get so tall?" 𝐼𝐶𝗵𝗲. "I was only a few inches taller than you when we graduated, but you built up a lot more muscle." "I did too, but it didn't seem like much since I grew taller while you stayed the same height." 𝗵𝘃𝗍. He let out a quiet laugh. "Seems like the rumors are true." Bakugo was on his feet in an instant and ready to protect Todoroki as he turned and faced the new voice. Hitoshi Aizawa came from the kitchen and greeted his son. 𝗓𝗫𝗍𝗃, a tall but seemingly filed-out purple-haired man, stood cosily with his hands in his pockets behind the couch. Around his neck was a capture weapon just like Aizawa's. Eye bags were still prominent. Nearly didn't believe it when I heard you were back. You look how you were back in high school, but nice reflexes. Thanks, someone has to stay on their toes around here. Bakugo relaxed. He himself didn't really trust the man since he only knew him from the small interactions they had during the sports festival, but he knew Shinso from the albums enough for him to be relaxed. How much do you know about this world? Pretty much everything that's been going on since school. What year are you in? You're too short to be in our final year. I'll kill you, he growled out. I'm in our second year. Oh, too bad. We become close later on, yeah. Yeah, of course none of your friends were closer than Kirishima. That busy is more annoying than the whole class. Don't assume he's close to me. That made Shinso smile. Sorry Blasty. Forgot you were such a princess back in high school. I'll kill you. He growled, causing their audience to laugh. Shut up half and half, I'll kill you too. After a few moments passed and everyone settled down, Shinso spoke again. So, while I did come here to see you, I also came to warn you that everyone else is getting antsy and want to see you. You might not know them, but you were friends with the other heroes that's still around. They get that it's not really our Bakugo, but it would still be nice for them to see you. I understand. Is there anyone who hates me? Not really. There might be some tension between you and a few people, but no bad blood. Good to know, Bakugo acknowledged. Let me change into my hero suit and I'll meet you all back here in 10 minutes. Sounds good. Bakugo went to go to the elevator when he was stopped by Aizawa's voice. Bakugo. Yeah. Do you want Ground Zero's gauntlets? The question took him by surprise. His gauntlets. He couldn't stop himself from repeating. Bakugo thought about it but figured it would be a bad idea. No, I don't know exactly what Bakugo changed on them, and that could make or break the tide of a fight. They nodded. It was also because he didn't want to disturb his grave. Sounded like some bad mumbo-jumbo CRP. It was also what caused Deku to recognize him at first. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to be wearing those gauntlets if he came across Deku again, which he definitely planned to. 10 minutes and I'm coming to find you, Blasty. Shinso called as the elevator closed. He didn't have time to respond. When Bakugo got into his room, he wished he could wash his suit before putting it back on. It wouldn't bother him, but just the knowledge it was gross weighed on his mind. Damn it, he said, changing his clothes. His gauntlets were the last to be put on. He only sighed and mentally prepared himself for the people he was about to be meeting. When he went downstairs, everyone was waiting for him. Let's go, Bakugo said and led the way back to you. He didn't know exactly why it wasn't safe, but judging from the reaction time the heroes took when he first walked into the school and the warnings he was given, he thought it was best to be on his guard. Everything looked the same as it did in his world, but Bakugo guessed the gloom that was draped over this world was something that didn't go away with the day. He stuck close to Todoroki in case something happened. He didn't have a lot of muscle, even for his height, so Bakugo could only assume he was out of practice and his reaction time would be rusty. He could tell that Shinso had bulked up from his world and Aizawa was on the front lines to fight him yesterday, so he knew they were still in top shape. It only took 5 minutes to get to the school and another 5 to get to the lunchroom. It seemed everyone was gathered here, but it still seemed empty since it was built to feed hundreds of students at once. It looked like everyone was waiting on him because the instant he entered the room, all eyes were on him. He felt Todoroki and Aizawa move closer to him. Brace yourself, he heard Shinso say. The next hour was a blur of people and introductions. Some heroes he recognized, but he let them introduce themselves anyway. He got a few hugs and lots of handshakes. Everyone was having a good time and everyone was happy to see them. 7 villains detected. 3 everything was going good until a loud announcement broke the peaceful atmosphere. It shifted in an instant. It was Nisa's voice that spoke to them. 1. Everyone listen up. The villain Deku is at our front gates, but he's holding a white flag. He is alone. We don't know whether he's turning himself in or if he's looking for a talk. Everyone meet by the front gate immediately. 70. Bakugo knew he would face Deku, but he thought he would have more time to make a plan. Stay here, Aizawa said to Todoroki and Bakugo. Like hell I'm staying here. Bakugo stepped away slowly in the direction of the front gate, but wary of Aizawa trying to capture him. "We don't have time for this, and I'm going whether you like it or not. You said you'd support me and I made you a promise," he said, eyeing his teacher. "At the first sign of danger you will come back here." Bakugo knew he wouldn't, so he didn't make a promise. "Let's go, be careful." Todoroki caught him in a hug. "Todoroki dash. Don't say it dash." Todoroki stopped him from saying goodbye. "You're not alone," he whispered instead. As he pulled away, he saw the sad and broken look Todoroki gave him. They both knew they wouldn't see each other again. Todoroki stayed behind, but Shinso came with them. He found a spot between the heroes where he could see Deku while still behind them. The doors opened and Nizu was sitting on Midnight's shoulder. Probably because they hoped she could knock him out before fighting started, Best Genius was next to her and Mike was on her other side. Deku dropped the white flag and smiled but made no move to cross the street. "What are you doing here?" Nizu began the talk. "Why, I'm here to talk my dear principal. As you see, I've brought no friends, and I promise that none will arrive at any point in our conversation." "Very well then, speak." "You see, I'm here to collect the youngest of your ranks. Give him back to me." There was something deadly in the way Deku spoke. It wasn't at all like how he talked to Bakugo. "I'm sorry, you will have to be more specific than that." Deku gritted his teeth but kept a smile. "I want Kaken back. Oh, and don't even try to lie to me, I know he's here." "Why would you think that?" "I just happened to mention that this was the last hero base in Japan, and I have no doubt he came to you for answers." Bakugo had to think fast. "I promise I won't hurt him, I just want to talk to him for a little while, just me and him." "Okay." Bakugo knew this was going to happen sooner or later, and Deku just promised he wouldn't be harmed. No doubt no one else believes Deku will keep his promise, but Bakugo knew he would hold up his promise like he did yesterday's. "How about you talk to him from where you're standing?" "Not gonna happen. If he does not come with me now, I will amass an attack on this school tomorrow at this time and slaughter every one of you except for him." No way the heroes could prepare for a full-scale attack in a single day. Deku wouldn't hurt him after he promised, and he just said he would kill everyone except for him. "Mr. Aizawa dash. No. No, you can't," he said in a hushed whisper. His teacher knew what he was planning. "I will make this right. I promise I won't lose dash." Aizawa tried to talk over him, but they both knew it was a losing effort. "No, I'm not going to let you go again. You died the last time I did and dash. And I'm not him, I'm me. I will win and I will." Aizawa was holding his shoulders, trying to shake some sense into him. "Dad is right. You can't go," Shinso said. He was concerned. "Bags no, Shinso, I'll be fine. In my world all I know is that you're a emo, but from what I've gleaned you're a good guy, and if you can handle dating Denki then you're strong too. I can tell that me and you had a good relationship, and when I get back to my world, I'm going to give you hell and me, and you will have a DMN good friendship." Bakugo held his hand out to shake. Shinso took it and held it firmly. "You better win, Blasty." "I will." They let go and Bakugo turned. He pushed through the heroes and made his way to Midnight. "Bakugo, turn around and go inside." "No can do. You know he'll make good on his threat and you know you won't win." Deku grinned. "Kaken, let's go. I'll make this right," he said, quiet enough that Deku couldn't hear them. "Go inside now," Nizu demanded. "Sorry, you're not my principal. No way in hell I'm going to listen to you on this one. Take care of Aizawa and you know who." He didn't say Todoroki's name since he figured that Deku still thought he was dead. He didn't look back as he walked out of the safety zone and into the lion's den. "Very good, Kaken. Shall we go?" "Yes." Deku set his hand on Bakugo's shoulder and purple mist surrounded them. It looked like the Warp Guy's quirk from the League of Villains. How right, all for one. Suddenly they were in a spacious common area with glass windows that reached the ceiling. No doubt they were a few stories off the ground. "Welcome to my penthouse suite," Deku said, letting him go and sitting in the couch. Everything here was white: the walls, the furniture, the tiles. Bakugo sat down next to Deku, but he left some space between them. "Were you really ready to mount an attack on you?" "Yes, I've had the plan for a while but didn't really focus on it until yesterday. You left me stuck to the ground. I was overwhelmed. And you got out of it just fine. Not the point, but fine. Why did you come to get me?" This caused Deku to hesitate. You were real. You're alive and you're better than him. I had to know if you were lying to me. Lying about what? Why you said you wouldn't react like he did. His feelings, that's what it boiled down to. He couldn't lie. I do like you, Deku. I wanted to tell the you in our world, but I wanted to wait until our relationship got better. When it did, I was waiting until I was completely sure that you didn't hate me and I wouldn't block the progress that we've made. I haven't quite got the chance yet. I've been waiting for a good moment to bring it up. Red eyes pierced his own. He should have never acted like he did, even if he did not return your feelings. You're telling the truth. Bakugo nodded. Deku leaned forward and held his face. You really love the Deku in your world. Bakugo brushed his fingers against Deku's jaw. I love Deku in any world. It was hesitant, but Deku leaned forward and kissed him. He returned the kiss. It was slow but enough for them to get their feelings across. I've wanted to do that for a while. Deku said, I am sorry. I'm sorry I killed them. I was just so angry and hurt. Everyone in 1A rallied behind that monster and it made me angry. What's done is done. Bakugo did not forgive him for killing everyone, but he couldn't change the past. Deku leaned in and kissed him again, but this time it was faster and slightly more rough. Deku slid his gloved hands down his muscles and stopped at the waistline of his pants when Bakugo tensed. Am I going too far? He didn't sound surprised, just disappointed. And no, I've just never done this before. He felt himself harden and his face burn in embarrassment. Deku took off his mask, which made his blush darker. So I'll be your first. Deku began to kiss down his neck and Bakugo had to bite down on his bottom lip hard to stop him from falling out. Wise. Deku took out his hair accessories and tossed them to the side. Bakugo went to rest his hands on Deku's hips but growled when his gauntlets got in the way. Deku straddled him and sat up to make room for him to take off his gauntlets. He let out a surprised as Deku grinded down on him. He hurried up and let his gauntlets fall dangerously on the floor. Such sweet sounds. Deku was back on him in seconds. When Bakugo tried to shift, he heard a groan from above him and realized his thigh was pressing into a rather big 𝐸𝐽. Deku worked on undressing Bakugo until his entire upper half was bare. His face was red from the way Deku's eyes raked hungrily over him. Waiuru, he said quietly while averting his gaze. What was that? Deku said with a smirk. He glared at Deku, which fell short of intimidating, with a heavy blush spread across his face. Why you take off your clothes too? Very well, Deku said with a smirk. Bakugo let out a gasp as Deku roughly palmed his length and then proceeded to take his gloves off with his teeth. The vest discarded on the floor. It's your turn, Deku said and took his hands. He set them at the top button of his dress shirt. Why you want me to? Bakugo had never felt more embarrassed in his life at the nod he received. With shaky hands he proceeded to unbutton the shirt, revealing a whole lot of rippling muscle. Good boy. He ignored how the praise made him feel hot. He pushed the fabric off of Deku's shoulder and once it fell to the floor he got a good view of Deku's body. It was littered in different scars. Bakugo leaned up and kissed the ones on his chest he could reach. From fighting heroes, a hand tangled itself in his hair and pulled it to the side, allowing his neck to be exposed. He could feel Deku bite claiming marks on his skin and it went straight to his pages. When Deku reached a certain spot on his neck, he felt a smirk against his skin. Always had such a dirty mouth on you, Kaken. Shut up, you like my dirty mouth. He panted out. Deku slid his hands up and flicked a finger over his NPL. He let out a high-pitched and covered his mouth when he realized it came from him. Now, I want to hear those pretty sounds of yours. Deku had the strength advantage because 1, he was older and had a hell of a lot more muscle than he did, and 2, because his limbs were practically jelly. Deku pinned his wrists together tightly, but not enough to hurt. His hands were pinned above his head and on the armrest his head was against. Deku kisses down his shoulders and licked his NPL with a hot tongue. His body arched up into the touch. Deku pinned his hips down with his other strong hand. Bakugo couldn't stop the sounds from leaving his mouth. He could only squirm as Deku kissed down his six-pack and unbuckle his pants. Deku pulled them off, leaving him completely bare before parting his legs and sucking him off. Deku! He whined at the hot mouth around his PP. Either he was really inexperienced with blowjobs or Deku was just really good. Probably a combination of both. Right before he reached his 𝗬𝗵𝗲, Deku pulled away. And no, please. He pleaded. He wished he could touch Deku. Patience, I have other ways of making you come. A shiver ran through his body. He was burning up. He wanted more. Deku released his hands and got up. He unbuttoned his pants and slid them down along with his boxers slowly. Like what you see. Deku teased, he stuttered out. 𝗓𝗏𝗄𝐲, please dash. The use of his first name seemed to throw the other man for a loop. Please what? Please F me. A smirk settled back on the other's face. As you wish. Deku settled between his legs and he only opened them wider in invitation. Purple mist surrounded his hands and a small container of lube appeared in his hands. As he slicked his fingers up, he kissed and marked the inside of his thighs. You want me to F you into this couch? Mark you as mine for all to see. Bakugo quickly nodded. Please. He wantonly. He tensed when he felt a slippery finger at his hole. It teased his rim before slipping inside. His fingernails dug into the armrest. Shoo, relax, I don't want to hurt you. His body naturally relaxed with the older male's soothing voice. Soon another finger was added in. It felt odd when a cold finger entered him. You're so hot inside, taking my fingers so well. Bakugo couldn't help but blush at the intimately praising words. When Deku added his third finger, he felt the burn that accompanied it. No one had ever touched him there, not even himself. After a little bit the fingers began to move. He didn't even realize he was until he looked at Deku, who was smiling at him. He said, and unclinged his hands from above him, he reached out to Deku's shoulders. Deku complied with his quiet wish and leaned forward enough to where Bakugo could grip his shoulder blades. More, he demanded as the fingers hit a spot in him that made his entire body jolt. So greedy, Deku murmured as his lips brushed against his shoulder. Bakugo whimpered as he felt the fingers pull out of him. I promise you'll get better than fingers in just a moment, love. Bakugo instantly loved that nickname. He felt the tip of Deku as he pushed in, and his nails dragged down Deku's shoulder blades. He heard Deku whisper sweet nothings in his ear and bliss wherever he could reach. Bakugo felt tears gather in his eye. You're doing so well, love. Almost there. You feel so good. You're practically pulling me in. I'm glad you said no one else has done this to you before. I don't think I could handle the jealousy. And no one else. Only you. Bakugo keened as he felt himself bottom out. So good, love. So good for me, only for me. He was glad Deku had the patience to not move immediately and gave him a chance to adjust. It took a few more moments before Deku began to move. Heat rushed through Bakugo as he felt himself tighten around the foreign object, causing Deku to groan. You feel so hot inside, so good around me. When Deku moved, it caused him to loudly, his legs curled around the other's waist. Bakugo jolted as Deku focused on that spot. His toes curled in pleasure and he couldn't stop himself from marking the lower spots on Deku's should that he could reach. Bakugo felt himself getting closer to the edge. I love you. He chanted over and over, I love you dash. Deku said breathily, I love you too. Deku repeated, I'm gonna dash. Bakugo couldn't even breath enough to finish his sentence. He felt Deku P&D into him harder as slim fingers wrapped around his length. He screamed as he came. Deku F him through his orgasm, making his vision go white. Deku came inside him and waited for them to come down from their high before pulling out. Deku scooted Bakugo into the couch and laid on the edge. Bakugo pulled him closer to him so he wouldn't fall off and so he could snuggle up to Deku. I love you, Bakugo murmured. I love you 𝗓𝗏𝗄𝐻, now sleep. He felt a wave of tiredness hit him like a ton of bricks and his eyes slid close. Before he completely went under, he felt a kiss pressed to his forehead. Bakugo knew he was lost in that moment. He would save Deku. Even if he didn't, Deku would forever hold his heart. When Bakugo opened his eyes, he was alone. He was clean and dressed in a green hoodie and black sweatpants. He smelt food and could only guess that Deku had cleaned him up and was cooking. When he sat up, his lower back felt like hell. Great. He gritted his teeth and stood up. He immediately fell back on the couch. No way, he was not going to be able to walk. Bakugo got up and forced himself to take a step. He really wanted to buckle. On wobbly legs, he made his way towards the smell and ended up in the kitchen. It was sleek and looked pretty dim and nice, stainless steel appliances. You're up. No thanks to you. He glanced over the food. A simple rice under eggs was being made. Deku turned around laughing, which made Bakugo freeze. One of his eyes were green, the right one was still red. Ah, it seems something happened while you were asleep. Once you eat breakfast and can walk without stumbling, we will go back to you. Deku didn't give Bakugo the chance to react as he picked Bakugo up and carried him to the table. He set him gently on a chair and brought the food in front of him. Why are you going back to you? Bakugo said quietly. To make things right, Bakugo's eyes widened. I'll give Nizu all of the information he needs to take down my criminal network. I've already retracted my contacts in the rest of the world so they won't get whiplashed when they send aid to Japan. Why you did it all last night? I may or may not have froze your body to give myself more time to think in what happened between us. He looked bashful. How long was I out? Bakugo began eating. 2 days. How many quirks do you have? Fine. Before 𝗓𝗋 died he gave me his quirk. Bakugo nodded. Well, what about you? Bakugo said quietly, I will comply with the heroes. I'll help them take down the criminal underworld and restore Japan to what it was. I won't try and stop whatever they want to do to me after. I won't give them 𝗓𝗋's quirk though. I've caused too much damage with it already and I won't let anyone else follow my footsteps. Speaking of 𝗓𝗋, I know how you got here. You do. Yes. A few years ago the heroes sent someone undercover, a quirkless boy who proclaimed to hate heroes and wanted them destroyed. I, of course, took him in. I gave him the power to cross realities. There are infinite worlds like this one, each are unique to them. One example is how you made up with me in your world, and in this one we did not. He went missing one day and I assumed his quirk consumed him, but now that you're here I think that he's been jumping across realities trying to find someone who could stop me. What was his name? The name he gave me was Daisuke, but his real name was Toshiro. Hey Deku. Yeah, Kaken. Do you think you like me back in my world? His different colored eyes stared at Bakugo, almost as if to see if it was a genuine question. I love you in every world I'm in. I love you too, Bakugo mumbled and ate his food aggressively to hide his embarrassment. When he finished he felt surprisingly good. Hey, where's my hero suit? It's in the bathroom, I washed it for you. Thanks. Bakugo looked around. Where's the bathroom? Deku laughed. Down the hall and to the right. Bakugo looked behind him to see the hall. He stood up and stopped in surprise. Why don't I hurt as bad? I have a quirk that allows me to alleviate pain though food. Basically you took strong painkillers while you ate. That must come in handy. Yes, but I have to make fresh food each time or else the potency wears off. Interesting. Bakugo walked to the bathroom and saw his suit nicely folded on the sink. The bathtub was like 3 times the size of a normal bathtub. He began to change and looked at all of the marks left on his body. It looks like Deku was smart enough to place hickeys in places that hero costume could hide, but just barely. When Bakugo was all suited up, he went back to see a bulging orange business envelope and a laptop in Deku's hand. You ready for this? He asked Deku. Never been more unready for something in my life. Stupid nerd. Hold onto my arm, I can't risk losing what I'm holding. Hey Deku. Bakugo looked up and gently grabbed Deku's arm. When Deku looked down at him he pulled Deku into a kiss that was slow. They probably would never do this again with each other. I love you. Tell that to the me in your world. I plan to, and the Todoroki in my world. Todoroki. Yeah, he was in love with you, wasn't he? Bakugo didn't think it was a good idea to reveal Todoroki was alive quite yet. Found a bunch of photo albums that had a few logs of our classmates in them. Apparently Todoroki and me bonded over our failed love for you. Wasn't planning to leave him out in my world. Photo albums. I thought Ida stopped filling them out after high school. No, there's 6 of them. Everyone passed it on as our classmates died, so it has their thoughts and pictures they took while the album was with them. I didn't know he was in love with May, just used our friendship to the max to manipulate him. Let's go, Bakugo said after a few moments. He pecked Deku on the cheek, which brought him back to the present. Yeah, let's go. Purple mist surrounded them and in an instant they were back across the street from the entrance to you. The guns focused on them and Bakugo put his body in front of Deku. I won't let them hurt you, he mumbled only loud enough for Deku to hear. It only took a few minuets for the large door to open and heroes that were ready for a fight were revealed. Aizawa was next to Midnight and Nizu while Mike was on the other side once again. He felt Deku stand by his side instead of behind him. "I'm turning myself in. I have all of the information needed for you to take me and all of my associates down. I will comply with any orders you might give and I will not resist. I have already pulled my operatives out of foreign governments as a show of good faith." There were whispers Bakugo couldn't hear being exchanged. "Send Bakugo with the documents and computer to verify your word. You can have the documents but the laptop cannot be accessed without me or it will corrupt all the data it holds, so I would prefer if it stays with me." Deku gave Bakugo the documents. "Very well, send him over." Bakugo looked at Deku one last time before heading over to Nizu. Aizawa cancelled his quirk but he didn't stop. "He's clear," he heard Aizawa say. "Here." Bakugo held out the documents. Nizu took them and immediately opened the envelope up. While he was looking through the envelope, Aizawa spoke quietly enough that Deku couldn't hear. "How did you get him to surrender? And what's up with his eyes?" Bakugo didn't think it was a good idea to tell them that he was F'd by Deku, so he just shrugged. "I just talked to him. As for his eyes, I have no idea. I could make a guess if I knew what changed his eye color in the first place." "These are," he heard Nizu mumble, "I made a promise, didn't I, that you outdid." Aizawa gave him a small smile. "This information is accurate." Nizu questioned Deku. "All of it is up to date, no tricks are involved?" Nizu nodded. "What do we do?" Midnight asked Nizu. "Someone go get restraints and quirk canceling cuffs." Someone darted off. "You can't hurt him," Bakugo said firmly. "We won't. We need him too much." Nizu assured, "You have to be the one to restrain him. I assume you have training on how to handle restraints." "Yeah, Aizawa taught us himself." "Very well." It was only a few minuets before someone handed him the restraints. They were heavy. Bakugo made his way back to Deku. "I'm sorry," he murmured quietly as he put the cuffs on first. "I deserve all of this." Bakugo didn't respond. He only wrapped the restraints around Deku's body. "You know, under any other circumstances I think I'd rather like you tying me up." Shut up." Bakugo said a little too loudly. "Is everything all right?" Aizawa called over. "Everything is fine." He made sure his embarrassed face was hidden from the hero's view. "I won't tell them what happened between us." Bakugo finished the restraints and looked at Deku's mismatched eyes. "Thank you, Kaken." Bakugo waited for him to continue. "I love you, and thank you for all you've done." "You know I love you too, you dumb nerd," he murmured. He led Deku back and kept a neutral expression. "I know," Deku whispered back. As soon as he crossed the gate entrance, Midnight took the chain. He made sure he handed it over without hesitation. He looked at Deku and saw he had a guarded expression. "Thank you, Bakugo. Without you this would have never happened," Aizawa said as he put a hand on his shoulder as Deku was led away. "I made a promise and I dash." Bakugo cut himself off as his body began to glow. "What the F is happening to me?" He saw Deku turn around, release him. Aizawa shouted, "It's not me," Deku said. Aizawa tried to cancel his quirk but he was still glowing and floating. "What's happening?" Bakugo repeated, but this time his was addressing Deku. "Your job is complete. You're going home." Bakugo's eyes widened. "Bakugo." Aizawa captured his attention. "Thank you for all you've done. Say goodbye to 𝗔𝗓 and Shinso for me." Aizawa nodded. Bakugo looked Deku's way and saw a small smile and a nod in his direction. He returned it and then suddenly he closed his eyes as there was a bright flash. He made impact with the floor. The F. Bakugo could feel the soreness returning to him and the new pains the floor just caused. Everything was dulled but feeling was being returned. When Bakugo opened his eyes again, he saw he was back in the gym Cementos built. Well, he groaned. Light was pouring in through the windows and it seemed like it was a little before noon. Was he gone for the same amount of time that he was in the other world? Bakugo stood up and dusted himself off. He had a feeling, an urge. It told him to go to his classroom instead of the dorms. Bakugo ran to the school and ran throughout the halls. He ran and slammed open the door to Class 1A to see them sitting in their seats being gloomy with Aizawa teaching. "What the dash?" he heard Aizawa said as he leaned over and panted to catch his breath. "Bakugo!" Aizawa rushes over to him but he straightened and went straight to Deku's desk. He ignored everyone else in the classroom and slammed his hands onto the desk, making everyone jump. Deku looked up at him in shock. If Deku. He started yelling. Deku was beyond confused. You better become the #1 hero and the symbol of peace. I won't forgive you if you let me beat you. Bakugo pulled on Deku's collar and made him awkwardly stand to meet him halfway. I'll beat your butt into the ground if you become anything other than #1. I won't tolerate failure or you becoming second best DO, you understand me? Bakugo pulled Deku into a kiss, and when he broke away he kept yelling, you will become my husband because I love you, you stupid nerd. Bakugo glared at Todoroki and pointed at him while still holding Deku's collar. Deku was blushing heavily. You're going to become my second husband, you hear me, half and half. You will both take my last name and you will become the #2 hero. I swear to God it will happen. You will marry me and Deku, I swear dash. Bakugo cut himself off when his knees buckled and all of the painkillers were finally gone from his body. Deku had caught his arm and made the impact on his knees. Less harsh. Deku got up from his seat and was at his side in an instant. Kaken, are you okay? He said, panicked. I'm fine, his quirk was just wearing off. You caused this anyway, so shut the F up. He looked at Todoroki, who was red-faced. The temperature had risen, causing Bakugo to smirk. Did Bakugo just declare his love for Midoriya and Todoroki? Mina asked, unsure. Did Bakugo really just tell Deku and Todoroki to become the #1 and 2 heroes, which places Bakugo at #3? Uraraka asked. Bakugo, that's enough. Aizawa was at his side. Bakugo did the most unexpected thing he could do and surged up to pull Aizawa into a hug. Ida better be taking pictures for his album. Be Bakugo. Hands hesitantly wrapped around him, he held his teacher tight for a few moments before he pulled away and pulled his face down to eye level. You're the best teacher in this entire world, and I'm also glad you have 2 eyes. He said, dead serious, before letting his teacher go. He would never forget that Aizawa called this class his favorite, and he would not forget the speech Aizawa was going to give at their graduation. Are you okay, Bakugo? His teacher asked unsurely. Aizawa was holding most of his weight. I'm fine. I'm better than I have been my entire life. We should take you to Recovery Girl for an examination just in case. Bakugo's face instantly lit up when he remembered his body was covered in hickeys. No. That will not be needed. Bakugo shoved off of Aizawa and stumbled. He landed back into Deku's arms. Deku's arm went around his waist for support while the other held him up by his arm. Kaken, you really should dash. Shut up. This is all your fault anyway. He was never going to forget how Deku F him. He better not be flustered each time Deku touched him after this, or he's going for revenge. What? He said, clearly confused. Is Bakugo having a mental breakdown? 𝗧𝗪𝗓 asked. He shoved Deku off of him and landed in his seat. He stifled a cry as he landed harshly on his butt. I'm fine. Now how long was I gone? He should only have been gone for 4 days if it was the same as how long he was in the other realm. 4 days? Okay, good. No weird but time paradox thing going on. What about the person who hit me with his quirk? What happened to him? He's at the police station for questioning, Aizawa said. He hasn't said anything about where he sent you or what you've been doing. Good. What happened to you? Aizawa questioned. None of your business. Now you have to let him go. His name is Toshiro. He's not a villain, he's a hero. He's not dash. Bakugo glared at his teacher. He is an undercover hero. No one will know him. He targeted me on purpose because he needed my help. He won't harm anyone, but I do need to talk to him as soon as possible. Bakugo had no idea how long that man was searching for a savior. He's more than likely waiting for a response as to what happened in his realm. I can't say anything about releasing him, but I'll find out about talking to him. While you wait for the police, you can go to Recovery Girl dash. Like hell I'm going to her while I wait. How long will it take? 30 minuets to an hour, and you are dash. Not going to her. Bakugo cracked his knuckles and looked over the class. His gaze lingered on 3 students in particular. Azui, Uraraka, and Ida. I have a lecture to give to this entire class and everyone will listen or I will throw them out the window. I'll lecture you later. Aizawa raised an eyebrow. Lecture me. Are you deaf? Yes, you, and I swear you will listen to me. Aizawa looked amused. His entertainment was going to be the reason he got away with giving a lecture. And what would you be lecturing me on? Getting him and All Might together, seeing if Hitoshi could get into the hero course this year, making detailed training for his class to get stronger. You don't want to have that conversation in front of the class yet. Bakugo knew he could probably BF the timeline up majorly, but he didn't care as long as his classmates and teachers were happy and alive. The class is yours, Aizawa said and watched him with interest. Bakugo sat on top of his desk so he could see everyone. He was going to give every single one of them tips on how to better handle their quirk and improvements on their fighting styles. The photo albums showed training or think that helped them improve with their quirks. Alright then. I'll start with you, 𝗧𝗪𝗏. The class seemed stunned that he actually used her name. You're well on your way to improvement, but there are still things you need to get better at. Use your quirk too much and you get sick, am I right? She only nodded dumbly. Then you need to improve your tolerance, float things throughout the day, even a pencil or eraser will work. Whatever object you choose, keep your quirk active on it for as long as you can. If you can make it through the day and it's too easy, then start carrying rocks or small weights to float around. That along with your usual training should help you develop your quirk. For combat, I know you studied at an agency that specializes in hand-to-hand, but when you're physically fighting and not using your quirk, your moves are too predictable. You should focus on different techniques and use your legs more like Deku does. It will give you more of a variety and a higher degree of unpredictability. I'm sure he's be more than happy to show you some of his moves. Wow, does Bakugo really pay attention to us? Kaminari questioned. Shut your goddamned mouth until it's your turn. Bakugo barked. Of course I pay attention to you. The more you know your enemy, the better chance you have at beating them. Of course it would be something like that. Kirishima sighed. What did I just say? He said, not expecting an answer. Sorry, teach. He said jokingly, Kirishima, I will throw you out of this goddamned window and beat you so bad that Recovery Girl won't be able to help you for days. And you will still listen to what I have to say before you get to go to her. Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting. He held his hands up in surrender. Bakugo didn't waste time. Ida, yes. You rely on your speed too much. Focus on hand-to-hand combat. That being said, when we are training, you need to constantly run your engines at high power for as long as you can. You need endurance. You don't have enough of it if you can only go at your max speed for 10 seconds. But my radiators overheat. Then I suggest you go to the support classes for help. The one who beat you at the sports festival last year would be the best. Heard she's good. He knows Ida won that round, but if that crazy chick didn't step out of the ring, he would have definitely lost. Azui, you rely on surprise attacks. Your quirk is strong but you're physically weak. You are good in water but you won't always be near your environment. Focus on your physical strength and combat in general. When you get used to fighting like a person, you can combine your combat skills with you frog qualities. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 would be a good match for you to practice with. Alright, now that he's covered those three, he can do the rest of the class. He started at the front. Aoyama, your body is physically weak like Azui's. While she had a quirk she can fall back on, you get stomach aches too easily for it to be your main card. You might not like how they look, but gaining muscle, especially core, will strengthen your body and it should help your quirk have a less negative effect on your body. Keep doing what you have been doing for training with your quirk. He nodded. Mina, you have a good handle on how to utilize your quirk and you're deceptively strong. The only thing that seems to weigh you down is how much acid you can produce, since you're already working in potency, and how to use it best in combat. Each night before you go to bed, fill your bathtub with as much acid as you can produce. Once you are able to fill a whole bathtub, you can move on to filling bigger things. I don't care how tired you are or how overworked your quirk is. I mean every DMN night. Is that clear? Yes, Mr. Bakugo. She saluted him. Mr. Bakugo. Ojiro, you focus on strength and combat, which is what your quirk is made for. I don't have any tips for you to improve your quirk since you can already use it pretty well in fighting and you already have a good body build. What I can tell you to focus on is your mental strength. You are strong, but if someone smarter than you comes along, you're done for. Study different attacks and defenses. Learn how to read people and predict their movements. That should help you. Next in line was Kaminari. You turn into a babbling idiot if you shoot your quirk away from your body or if you overuse it. Meditation will be good for you. Pick a spot and focus on your electricity running through your body. Focus on keeping it flowing through you at the highest power you can manage while still remaining in control for as long as you can. If you ever cause a power outage at the dorms, I will throw you off the roof. He looked like he wanted to say something, but Bakugo knew it was going to be a retort to throwing him off the roof, so he ignored it and went to Kirishima. You have a well-built body, and I've fought you enough times that I know you're good at hand-to-hand combat. You're already working on endurance, so I can tell you what I did to Ojiro. You need to train your mind. You can think on your feet pretty fast, and you have a good reaction time, so studying people would be a waste of time. Study defense and offensive ways of fighting. You can harden your whole body, and I understand that it slows your movements, but you need to learn to fight with your whole body. You use your arms all of the time. What about your legs? No one is going to expect someone built like a tank to not try and punch their way through a problem, make it a special move or something, but start using your legs. You and Ojiro should spar against each other when you're not working on your hardening endurance. The animal kid is next. To be honest, I don't have a good handle on your quirk. I know you can control animals, but that's about it. From what I've seen, you need to work on your confidence. Once you get over or become less then you should work on your combat skills. You rely way too much on animals to do your fighting, and sometimes you'll come across someone where fighting birds won't cut it. Oh, and you need to get over your fear of bugs. That, and you can reduce any sane man to screaming in fear. Only insane people would be okay with bugs crawling over this body. Thank you. Wow, Bakugo didn't expect him to say anything. No problem. Next is Sato. Sato, right. You eat sugar and gain muscle, but the more sugar you eat, the dumber you become. Your body is well built, and I think you would waste too much time analyzing things, so I think you should work on battle tactics. You're already working on your sugar endurance, so I can't say anything there. Learn how to use your body to its full potential in any situation possible. Your body is naturally strong, and I think you forget that when you're fighting. So think about how to use your natural strength before you try to overload yourself with sugar. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 is next. Why does he always cover his face with a mask? Shoji, I think that you have great control over your quirk, and I think you know how to use your body best in most situations. There isn't anything I can tell you that would make you stronger except for one thing. You don't use your sense of smell, you talk, you sprout extra limbs, you can make dozens of ears, but I've never seen you use your sense of smell. Can you use your sense of smell? Yes, Bakugo nodded. I won't ask why you don't use it, but if you did, I think it would help you. He nodded. Jiro, your quirk is really strong and you're already working on utilizing it, but your body is weak. You know combat, but if someone cancels out your earphone jacks, then you are close to being completely screwed if someone tried to overpower you with brute strength. Focus on gaining muscle. It doesn't have to be a lot, but enough for you to be able to beat the SHT out of someone. Uraraka should be able to help you with combat skills she learned from her internship. I think they would benefit you. Oh look, the idiot, other idiot. 𝗧𝗏, you're an idiot. Bakugo just had to say, no special reason for that, you just are one, and I felt like saying it. Hey Dash, anyway, your tape is pretty strong and you're already working on the amount you can produce, so I think you should work on combat. You're a bit on the scrawny side, so you should work on strength and fighting skills. Kirishima or Ojiro could probably help you with physical training. They wouldn't be a good matchup to fight with quirks though. Dark Shadow, what did he say in the album? He stared at Tokoyami while he thought, it's alright if you don't have any advice for me Dash. Shut up, I'm thinking on how to tell you. He nodded, still unsure. You're already developing your fighting style with Dark Shadow pretty well, and you're working on your control of him in the dark, so I think it's best you work on Dark Shadow's confidence. Confidence? 𝗧𝗏 said, shut your goddamn mouth. It's not your turn, he said to 𝗧𝗏 before turning back to Tokoyami. Attend some self-confidence and motivational speakers. It will be good for him. The less insecure he is, the more stable he will become. As long as you keep a firm hand on him, it shouldn't backfire on you, but be careful because if he gets too self-confident, he could spiral out of your control. It's up to you if you take my advice. I won't blame you if you don't. I've never thought of that, thank you. He gave Tokoyami a nod and looked at Todoroki. He stared for a long moment. Organizing your thoughts. Icy Hot said, no, you're just hot and I'm admiring the view. Bakugo kept a straight face despite how desperately he wanted to smirk at the lightly blushing half and half. He felt the temperature of the room rise, and the smirk became harder to fight off. Todoroki, you stronger than all of us in terms of raw power. You're smart and know how to make quick decisions, and you can do hand-to-hand combat. The one flaw you have, however, is the speed you can 𝗬𝗧𝗏 between your powers. Villains aren't going to wait for you to 𝗬𝗧𝗏 between getting roasted and getting frostbite. You're working on it now, but you're focusing on keeping it together in combat. I suggest you meditate and have both of your powers running at the same time at a low power. Focus on maintaining them. When you get good enough at that, then focus on fluctuating your power while both of your quirks are running. Once you are that, then you will have mastered being able to 𝗬𝗧𝗏 between your quirks. A flash of the lithe body Todoroki flashed through his mind. Don't slack on training your body either. Maintaining your quirks might have an unexpected effect on your body, so make sure you continue to build muscle and not losing any. Well, that could be true, he just really didn't want to see Todoroki physically weak ever again. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, as for you, you focus on stealth attacks. I can't really see your body, and it would be too weird patting you down to see your muscle mass, so only you know if you have a solid build. You're more of hit and run, so I would suggest building up your hand-to-hand combat skills. Start wearing long sleeves when we train so you can build up those skills with all of us and not have to recall your basic training in the middle of a fight. Also, you can hide pretty well and you're good at stealth, but the one thing you aren't thinking of is your smell. Hell, even he didn't think about it. In one of the albums, she faced a blind villain and got her butt handed to her because she wore perfume. Smell. She questioned, "Are you wearing perfume?" "I am. I know, I can smell it on you when you're next to me. So why'd you ask?" "So you can realize it. You could come across a villain in the future that doesn't rely on their eyes. They would probably be in tune with all of their other senses. If they caught a single whiff of you, it could mean the end of your life." Bakugo had to hold back a wince on that one. "I suggest you wear more natural smells and buy some that are suited to whatever environment you would be in." "I guess I never thought of that. I suggest you train with Shoji, it will help both of you get better. For physical combat, I think you should go with Ojiro, not Uraraka." "No, if anyone goes to her, it will probably be for technique training. I think Ojiro would be better at building up your fighting skills. You can go to Uraraka for a better understanding of basic technique training, but I think it would be better practiced against Ojiro." "That makes sense. Deku is being skipped for now. He will be last. Mineta is a waste of his time, but he won't not give him advice just because he drops out. Mineta, your quirk is pretty basic and you're undergoing all the training for it, so all I can tell you is to build up your muscle since you're physically pretty weak. Once you have muscle, you can work on hand-to-hand combat. That and stop being a pervert. If I find out you were using my advice to train with one of the girls and get handsy, then I'll drown you before blasting your body into fish chum. You can't threaten me like that. I've already threatened to throw people out the window and beat the SHT out of them. If Aizawa had a problem, he would have stopped me already. And I'm getting away with sitting on a desk, so I'm saying he doesn't care what I do for the moment." Momo and then death. "You have a great quirk, Momo, and you're smart. You turn the lipids in your body into items, right?" "Yes, only non-living things. Then it would be a waste of time for me to tell you to build up muscle. You're already working on training your quirk, so no advice there, and I know you study the structure of things on your own time since you're a dedicated student. I think you should work on hand-to-hand combat. You rely on your quirk too much, and it tries you out quickly, so I think you should get better at fighting. You should probably train with Uraraka for a while. The only thing left I have to say is be more confident in yourself. You're smart and you should trust in your decision-making skills. You generally keep a cool head under pressure, and as long as you don't overthink, then you can handle most things thrown at you." "I will think on what you said. Thank you for the advice." He nodded and tuned around on his desk. His butt still hurt. He slammed a foot on Deku's desk, making him jolt. "You're weak right now. You have a good body dash. That gets better when you're older, but that's not going to be enough to beat me. You're smart and there is nothing about tactics or fighting styles I think you could benefit from researching. If he took over Japan in 5 years, there's nothing he could say about improving his intellect. You can think through almost every situation under high pressure and you're already working on your shoot style. The one problem you have is that you still can't handle your quirk at full strength. I suggest you meditate like Denki. While he short-circuits, you break bones. Focus on raising the threshold of your power, 1% out of time if that's what it takes. Eventually you will get strong enough to handle your quirk at full power." Bakugo leaned forward and used his pointer finger and put it under his chin to tilt his head up. "Do not rush this. Becoming frustrated with your own inability to handle your power will cause you to backslide and harm yourself. Take meditation slow, focus on adjusting your body to handle your power a little at a time. Got it? They got it, Deku squeaked out. Bakugo spoke his next words softly, everyone strained to hear. Izuku, you have the power to become the greatest hero ever seen in this world. All Might was a bright light, but you will be brighter and outshine him. You will become the #1 hero, of that I have no doubt. When that day comes, the world will have true peace. Bakugo swore to himself he would not let his Deku become a villain, even at the cost of being the #1 hero. If he could keep Deku and Todoroki healthy and everyone in 1A alive, then he would do it. Don't get the wrong idea, I won't make it easy for you, but I will support you. I believe in the hero you will become. Bakugo wanted to kiss the blushing face that was in front of him but refrained and pulled his hand back to himself. Uraraka, he looked at the girl, if you aren't training with anyone else then you will train with me whenever time allows it, not with quirks, but with physical ability. He wanted to train Ida and Azui but they were a bad matchup for him. With his advice they wouldn't be taken down easily, so it was okay that he could only personally train Uraraka. Really? Why me? Because I can't stand the thought of you, or any one of you guys dying. Because I know you can improve. We can even have a rematch of the sports festival if we are allowed once you get better. You're not a total crybaby so I'm sure you can handle training with me. You really think so? I'm acknowledging your strength so stop doubting yourself, you're making me look stupid. Her face lit up, thank you Bakugo. I'll do my best. Even though he was happy with her reaction he ched like he was annoyed. You better, so are we allowed to speak now Mr. Bakugo? Mina said raising her hand. Mr. Bakugo, do what you want. So what inspired that little teaching lesson? Not that I'm complaining, Mina said ruffling her hair. The truth is that I don't want you all to die. That I can't bear to be in a class of weaklings. All of you extras better step up if you don't want to get stuck as a second-rate hero or even as a sidekick. Bakugo crosses his arms and did his best to look menacing. Oh come on, you know none of believe that for a second. I bet it was because of whatever happened while you were gone for 4 days. Kirishima said he's right. You're wrong. Shut up before I throw you out of the window. Yeah, what happened while you were gone? Deku asked behind him. None of your DMN business. Whatever it was, it made Bakugo a huge softy. Denki said, do you want to die? Bakugo let a few sparks light up in his hand. It was easy, was it hard because the other world wasn't his? Well at least we know Bakugo is looking out for us. Uraraka said with a smile, we'll see who's smiling when I P&D you into the ground round face. Bakugo isn't using our names anymore, Ojiro teased. You want to go tail? Now Bakugo, you know we are grateful for the advice and all you've done for us. Ida said, he better have a DMN good photo album. Stupid 4 eyes, he muttered and crossed his arms, so am I allowed to bring up the husband thing? Momo said wary of a bad reaction, if half and Deku will marry me and we will all be one big happy but family. Bakugo rolled his eyes, one big gay but family, Denki cackled. But it wasn't malicious, it was accepting. Like you're one to talk, you're gayer than a rainbow, not. Bakugo smirked, we'll see, what does that mean? Bakugo didn't answer, Bakugo, shut up. You're annoying, do you know something I don't? He whined, Bakugo touched his gauntlet that held the hidden photo. You can suffer and find out, am I the only one remembering the lecture Bakugo planned to give to Aizawa? Jiro said making everyone turn their attention to their teacher who was in his bag sleeping. He opened his eyes when he heard his name, no doubt he wasn't actually sleeping. His lecture comes later, Bakugo announced as Aizawa stepped out of his bag. Then later can come now, a car arrived about 10 minutes ago, you looked like you were into the whole teaching thing so I let you do what you wanted, good advice actually. Of course it was good advice, it came from me. He scoffed, so can you walk? Oh yeah, Bakugo said remembering how he was on a goddamn couch. Bakugo slowly went to stand up and was glad when his legs held. He took a step forward and his lower back hurt but he kept walking, even if it was a bit awkward. Good, I'll walk you outside. Class, You should all reflect on what Bakugo told you. I'll be back in a few minutes. Ida quickly stood and bowed at his desk. Everyone followed his lead. What dash? Thank you, Mr. Bakugo, they all said in unison. A warm feeling bloomed in Bakugo's chest as everyone righted themselves and sat back down. He only shook his head and his smile behind a cough. Bees. He proceeded to walk out the doors. I'll kill each and every one of you if I ever hear you call me Mr. Bakugo. The door closed behind him and they began walking. How badly are you injured? Of course Aizawa knew he wouldn't want to admit he was hurt to the class. He expected an answer. Not hurt, just sore in a lot of places. You get in fights. Bakugo instantly wanted to say no, but if he said no then he would have to explain how he was hurt. Yeah, nothing I couldn't handle. Your legs gave out in front of the entire class. Painkillers were wearing off. Where'd you get the painkillers? Robbed a drag store. He got a look at that sentence even though his teacher knew it wasn't true. What happened to you while you were gone? Where did you go? You gave quiet the lecture to the class and you basically gave up your dream of becoming the #1 hero to Midoriya. He was the only reason I wanted to become a hero in the first place. Really? Aizawa said surprised. I got tired of him saying All Might was cooler than I was. Childlike antics. It got me this far, didn't it? They walked in silence for a few moments. You're really not going to tell me where you disappeared to? Bakugo chose his words carefully. I think that it would be better if you and the rest of the class didn't know. I wasn't really planning on telling anyone what happened when I got back. And yet you just gave the class a lecture on how to power up. You know that will bring suspicion and endless curiosity on you. I know. Bakugo clenched his fists. He could deal with questions, he couldn't deal with deaths. Were you in another world like this one? He stayed quiet for a few moments. Yes, he barely whispered out. I'm guessing it was bad. You did say you were glad I had both of my eyes. Bakugo was vulnerable as he stopped in the hall and his eyes met his teacher's. It was worse than you could imagine, and I'd rather die or not be a hero at all if it means what I saw never comes to pass. Bakugo looked down to hide his tears eyes as he remembered the graves and the last album with everyone's journal logs. Bakugo, Aizawa stepped close and pulled his head into his chest with a firm hand. Bakugo rested his head as he furiously wiped the tears away. I promise it won't happen. I swore it wouldn't. Nothing that happened there was your fault. This Deshiro guy should never have placed such a burden on your shoulders. But it was his fault. Bakugo effed them over. He had to choose me, or else that world would still be dark and gloomy, and I would have never realized what I had. You were there in that world. You looked so broken. Not even like the 𝐒𝐻 attack, worse. I promise I'll never let you look like that. Bakugo grabbed onto the front of Aizawa's shirt and looked up. His eyes were teary but determined. Never, Mr. Aizawa. Never ever will I let you look at me like you did. You were so afraid. Aizawa looked at the student in his arms. Sometimes he forgot that he was just a kid. He pulled Bakugo back into his chest. Whatever had happened was bad even for someone like Bakugo, who had been kidnapped and faced real villains, and he was only in his second year of high school. I was scared when you disappeared in that gym. You know, I got so mad I slammed the guy's face into the concrete more than once. I think I scared some of your classmates. You had already been taken once and I couldn't protect you, but you were right in front of me and I still wasn't able to save you. That's different. Oh yeah. Aizawa carted his fingers through his student's hair. You might have been scared, but you know I can take care of myself and understood that you still had a class to take care of. Mr. Aizawa, the one from the other world, he was still going about his duties, but sadness followed him like a cloud and he was so lonely and he was sour-wrecked when he first saw me. Bakugo took a breath. I promised him that I would make his world right. He was so much like you, but he was broken. I saved that world, but he had already lost. He was already lost. Bakugo, you can't place that burden on yourself, but it did belong to him. I will protect you and everyone in 1A with my life. I swear none of you will get hurt. I'll destroy anyone who tries. It's my job to protect you. Since when I care about something like that? Aizawa laughed. Oh Bakugo, you're going to make a great hero one day, Mr. Aizawa. Always laugh like that and be happy with us. Always glare at us when we're noisy. Always scold us when we go too far. Always be our teacher. Aizawa smiles softly at his student. "I'm not going anywhere." When Bakugo heard distant footstep, he pulled away from his teacher and wiped his eyes. "We should get going," Bakugo said gruffly. "Yeah, All Might is waiting for you." "All Might?" "Yeah, we can't really just give you to the police, so All Might will be going with you." "Oh wait, do I have to go through questioning?" "More than likely." They began walking again. "Your parents will be waiting for you at the station." "You called my parents?" "Bakugo, you've been missing for 4 days. Yes, I called your parents. Plus, minors need to have a guardian present when being interrogated. That's going to be annoying to deal with." Truth was, Bakugo was excited to see his parents. He didn't know what happened to them in the other world, but he hoped it was nothing bad. "Sure it will," Aizawa said, knowing him. They got to the ground floor. "So what exactly was the lecture you had planned for me?" "Tips on how to become a better hero." "Don't be stupid. I wouldn't even begin to guess the training you'd have to go though to make yourself better than you are." "Thanks," Aizawa said, taking the compliment. "Shut up," Bakugo said, not putting any real heat behind it. When they got outside, they could see All Might waiting next to a black car. "No, one of the things I was going to lecture you on is for you to stop being a coward and go out with him already." He tilted his chin in the direction of All Might. "But you're not allowed to get married until our last year of high school." Aizawa wanted to say something but couldn't because All Might could hear. "Hello, young Bakugo. You ready to go?" "Wouldn't be here otherwise. We will talk about this later," Aizawa said in a bored tone, although Bakugo knew he was anything but bored. Yeah, just so you know, that was only one thing. Find a time, I will," Bakugo promised. They shared one last look before Bakugo sat in the passenger seat while All Might took the driver's. "You drive?" Bakugo asked when they began moving. "Of course I do. One needs to know many skills as a hero. I learned to drive back in America. It took me a while to adjust when I got back to Japan." Bakugo couldn't help but look over All Might, discreetly of course. "Oh, so what was that about?" "With Aizawa?" "Yeah. Oh, I just needed to talk to him about a few things and we didn't get to finish our conversation. Are you needing help with classwork?"